you getting yourself ready for our show?
Alrighty, guys, Bobby Roast Beef here, Jigs and Bigs, another episode, another Tuesday, it's another week, but a brand new year. That's what's different here. It's 2023. Welcome, everybody. We got an interesting show for you. Today's show, we are going to take a little walk into the. We're going to dip our feet into the world of truck camping and overlanding. And I have a guest this week that I'm really excited to talk to. Roger Young. He's got a great YouTube channel. GGG4r is his channel. He's got this amazing third gen 4Runner he's put together, and we're going to talk about some of the sort of the tips that you want to make sure to give a newbie when it comes to getting out there and you know, how does this work with fishing? Well, it does, because this allows you to travel further and keep costs really, really low. It really doesn't take a whole lot to do this, and he's got some great content that'll inspire you immensely. I got Sean the Fisherman with us. We have some New Year's stuff to talk about, and I have an event that surprised me that happened this week. All the red flags. We'll talk about it coming up in just a bit. More Jigs and Bigs. Go ahead and get yourself something delicious to enjoy so that you can enjoy all this high-quality, long-form podcast content for you. We'll be back right after this. Hey, 2023 is here, and already, fuck it.
Starting off the day with some technical difficulties, but we've adapted and overcame, as in you have.
Yes. Once again, in the podcasting world, Bobby Roast Beef has managed to take a turd and polish it into the fucking diamond that you see in front of you, or actually that you're hearing.
So shiny, so shiny.
They're shined, a shiny demon.
Yes.
So big tooth update. The tooth is gone. The tooth is gone. The tooth has left the building, if you will. This is a good thing, because all of that pain that I had been feeling before the lovely antibiotics that started working their magic, and all the discomfort of just having that like fractured tooth kind of like rattling around up there, it's gone. And I got to tell you, did I go over the story about how I told my dentist before when she was like, yeah, there's a fracture in this tooth, it's got to go? She offered to pull it right then and there. And I said, well, I'm like, hold on a second. I go, I am going to be hosting trivia regardless of what happens in this office in 2 hours. Do you think I'll be able to talk into a microphone in front of a crowd of about 50 to 100 people and have it come across the right way? And she was like, I really don't know. She's like, I wouldn't do it. She was like, you've never had a tooth pulled before, so I would err on the side of caution. Let's schedule it in the morning. Your boy 100% could have hosted trivia right after having that tooth pulled. Absolutely. I don't know if my dentist is that good. Like, it was definitely an interesting situation, but there was a moment in that office, Sean, where, and I think this is where Bobby Roast Beef has to check his ego a little bit. I went in there thinking, yeah, I'm coming home with this tooth in a little vial, and I'm going to give it to somebody as a prize for trivia. Maybe for coming in last place. There was a moment in time, and then she showed me the tooth after she pulled it out, and it actually had fractured like right down the middle. It was like a textbook. Like if you wanted to see a cutaway section of the insides of a tooth, you just go like that, bam, and it was right there. I was just like, get that thing out of here. I was like, throw it in the trash. Who the fuck am I to think somebody wants to come out to a bar or restaurant, put and compete their asses off just simply to be handed a piece of, like, me, literally.
I mean, a little less gruesome. If you wanted to go down that path, you could always give them some, like, beard hair.
Yeah, and I mean, I've got that. That's true. They could have their own little tuft, something like that. Yeah, that's very true. That's right. Because I've been giving it to the songbirds in my yard to build nests as it's been, They say you lose 20 a day. I mean, I figure if I can help rehome a couple of songbirds, it's worth it. You didn't know I was so into the avian, pastimes. And here
I didn't.
are.
I mean, should I expect them, to just take, maybe you take the next step and don't even bother bringing the hair outside to them. You just open the windows and let them nest in your beard.
Like a Peter Griffin, just like.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
That's the next step.
We could do that. Yeah, that's possible. Who knows?
Well, from one break to another, I found out that I don't know if I told you this, my right arm.
Yes, you mentioned it's in some
I have a
condition.
huge chip of bone floating around in my elbow.
Yeah.
That is what's causing all these problems, so I have to continue on that. It's really bad when an x-ray technician says, hey, you got to take a look at this. That's not
like
good.
calling people in from the other room. That's great. Yeah.
Well, she called me in. She said, look at this. And I said, oh, my God, because it was such a textbook example of something has dislodged and has been smashed and is now floating around in the ether of your elbow.
So it's like the topographical map equivalent of like looking at a hump, an offshore hump.
Yeah, I'm gonna while we're talking here, I'm just gonna draw out what my X-ray looked like. All right, it was fantastic.
If
all right,
they haven't gotten back to you about like surgery or anything like that, or if they're even going to bother removing it, because there is a point in time in your life where you get to a point where your doctors are just like, eh.
I am currently under a compression, ice, and ibuprofen order.
Oh, nice.
That is going to last for 10 days. If the swelling doesn't go down, then I have to talk about the next step, which could be orthopedic surgery.
Yeah.
Surgery. But the dark is my bone. I'm showing you a picture of it. All right. That's what the picture was.
Oh, wow.
It was like a sickle of death just sticking out into my elbow. I'm like, what the hell is that? And they said, well, it could have been a bone spur and it probably smashed off and it's just jagging things that it shouldn't. And that's why everything hurts. I said, well, that's great. This will be great for casting this.
Casting this year. I took a few casts in 2023. I went out today, man. I went out today specifically with trout on the brain. And I was like, yeah, let's go. There's one spot on a local river I was planning on going to hit. And I was like, we've had a couple of good freaking days. I wonder if we're all iced up on this one little honey hole spot. And I went over to that one spot, and it was one of those things. It was the same kind of line. I think that there's actually like a drop off where there's a change. And there's the same line where there's one little corner was open water. So I fished that for a little while, and then I was like, nothing really happening over here. Just throwing around a Ned rig, tiny little finesse swim bait, dragging them real slow on the bottom. That's what it's all about. And then I made the decision to go over to another body of water after making a pit stop at a local Cumbies. I made a deposit, we'll say, and then I also grabbed some coffee while I was there. And I went over to this other little spot that I fished at before, and I've talked about this before because it's not a popular place to fish for anyone. I actually don't think I know anybody who specifically goes out to fish this spot. It's the Holyoke Canal system. What I like about them is that they are moving water, so they are very, very, very slow to freeze. They will freeze, but they're very slow to freeze. So it does allow me to get out there and fish, but it is a challenge to catch fish in this place, mainly because they'll flood, they'll release all the water that's in the canals and flush all the fish right back out into the river. But then when they refill it, you have this sort of like Yahtzee moment where there are fish that are going to be coming in as they fill it back up. So it's you never know what the population of fish is in there, but like frickin' clockwork, man. No, there were no, homeless people pleasuring themselves to the victories that I might have had on the water. But instead, I got to, and I do this far more often when I fish this body of water, is I educate people about the fact that, yes, you can fish there. And even the people who own the property are like, we don't know. Go ahead. Like, go ahead. Nobody ever told us you can't, just don't cross over the fences. So you have to be obviously not a moron about it. But somebody came over, and this one guy, nicest, the most genuine question. He's like, do you really think there's hungry fish in there? And I was like, I know it. I know there's hungry fish in there. How many and where they are is the big question, because you've got these multiple different, and you've got different current in different levels of the canal. So it changes constantly. So I'm like, I know that there's anything that you could have in the river, you could feasibly have in those canals just because of when they cycle through the water in there. So I'm like, they're in here. So I've got this guy watching me throw around, and I'm trying to do this like ninja cast up against this one pylon from a bridge that goes over where it's on the backside of where the current is. So I've got this slack water there, and I'm trying to really focus on this one spot. And by the fourth or fifth cast, he had figured out what I was doing and was just like, "Oh, that was a good cast, man. You almost got it. Oh, that was great."
You had a cheerleader.
Like, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Guy in his like mid-50s cheering me on. Leather gloves, leather jacket. I think he was changing his oil to his BMW in the parking lot when I left, but just oddball freaking moment.
I mean, congratulations, the fact that he had his pants on or his hand was not down said pants.
True,
That's a huge step for where you fish there in Holyoke.
Exactly. Hey, it's a step in the right direction. We're making it. Although I will tell you, the spot where I do like to fish over in Holyoke is right, like kitty cornered between like a cannabis grow op and a couple of dispensaries, and it smells wonderful.
Oh, I can imagine.
I just go there for the the aromatherapy of it all. It's like, it's just freaking wild. I do wish I could dial in the fish that are in there within a certain window a little bit better, because I would love to just bring like my kids or, other folks that are just like, even you don't like to bank fish a lot of the time, but this is a nice kind of situation because you've got the railings that are there, the fence that's there. You can lean on that. Like it's kind of nice. Everything's flat.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
That's the big one.
Not
flat shit.
Risk my knees or ankles walking around. That's the biggest detractor for me. When thinking about bank fishing nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 15 anymore, just climbing over everything. I take a fall now,
and it's bad news.
Yeah.
So I have. There's one other spot that I like to fish along the Connecticut River, that's up that way, and it's south of the Holyoke Dam. And the jury is still out if I prefer it when there's water dumping over the dam and the water levels are crazy high up there, or if I like them when they're much lower. Last time I was up there and the water levels are crazy high, like the beavers that in this one spot where I like to fish, there's a big beaver hut, and there were like several like agenda of rage beavers. Like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, you guys, you just friggin', I mean, whatever's in the area that I'm fishing in is so small that whatever fish are there, they're spooked easily. You got beavers slapping tails and shit, so it's just a waste of time. When the water's low, I've had really, really good, like, it's feast or famine. It's either really, really good or it's dead. And I just haven't had a situation where the water's been high where it's been good. So I just wrote that spot off because I drove over the 116 bridge and I looked at the water dumping over the dam, and I'm like, yeah, not today. We'll go. Yeah. So maybe later this week I'm going to head out and do some trout fishing or something. But I was just like, man, we're so close to this warm weather. I want to take a chance and see if we don't have some ice somewhere. I did spot some ice on the canal further down toward the tail end of it. It was frozen. There was one like big like hard line. I think it was like Sargent Street or something. It was just crazy. But I'm still hustling, man. I'm trying to get out there as much as I can. As much as humanly possible. Man.
You're doing better than I am, man. I'm inside of gyms. I mean, it's every day. We had practice this morning, just getting up and working with the kids, making sure they're learning. And now they know me well enough now where I've started to like, playfully mock them if they're doing something that they shouldn't. So I had one kid today. I was laughing. I told my wife about this. She was laughing too.
Nice.
He came off a pick, and usually when you come off a pick, you got to have your hands up, ready for the ball. Here's a target. Hit my hands. For whatever reason, man, his hands were down like this, like a T-Rex. So I stopped him. I said, "What the hell are you?" Yeah, exactly. I said, "What the hell are you doing? Are you some sort of T-Rex?" And everybody starts laughing. And then I mocked him. He was laughing. He's a good kid.
That's good. He got it.
So as he's running back, I said, "Oh, look at me! I don't have to catch the passes. My relatives all got hit by an asteroid."
Hang on. That was fucking good. That was good. Oh my goodness.
So 8:30 in the morning, you got to have some fun. So This week was actually, never mind, just a high school team, both teams that I coach. So my fourth graders finally got their first win.
That's good.
Coaching in the league that I do, you have to really be careful about your team evaluations because it's so bizarre to see. But like some coaches will actually say, "Oh, my team's much worse than it is," so they can go out and they win every game, and they're in a division they really shouldn't be.
Oh, I gotcha.
And this is like fourth graders. So
yeah. What's the point?
I actually prefer to really accurately assess where the kids are at, so I can put them in a division where they're not going to win every game, but they're not going to lose every game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this year with the new talent, I had to learn a new team, and I had to do my evaluation after 1 week. So I put them as like, middle of the road, and they're not. And plus, a lot of them haven't been there, and there's been some illness, and I ended up having to drop my team in division because they were getting beat up bad, and it wasn't just one game. There were no competitive games. So I said, okay, that doesn't do any good. And when I explained to the parents, I said, look, as a coach, I have to get them to see the game understand the game at whatever speed is slow enough for them to understand it, and then increase the speed. But they have to understand what's going on first and be able to see, like, okay, I'm here and my teammate is supposed to be here. Oh, here he comes. And they can see that movement slowly around the court. And with getting, their asses wiped out every game, it wasn't doing it. So we dropped the league, and it turns out the division we were in, like I think 5 teams in our division all dropped, and then the division below us 3 or 4 went up. So it was like a neat little interchange between the two divisions. The top went up and the bottom went down, and then hopefully everybody will
gotcha.
Have some competitive games. As far as the high schoolers, man, they had a rough and tumble game. I'm not going to say who they played. One of the Berkshire teams came to town, and it was rowdy. The crowd had to be quieted down by our principal / athletic director.
No shit.
There were 3 technicals assessed to the other team for roughness and for talking back to the referees, which is just dumb. I always tell every kid I coach, I'm like, look, I refereed. Don't talk. Let me talk to the referees. There's a way to talk to them so that nobody's going to get a technical. Don't talk back, etc. But we had a lead going into halftime by 18 points. The other team tied it with 2 minutes left, and then we pulled it out by 6. And it was rough. I mean, I got to the locker room. I had some duties to take care of. The head coach and the team went back to the locker room. I had a couple things to grab. I got back there. He was done with his little post game speech, and they looked at me when I walked in. I said, "Man, you guys played with some fucking balls tonight." Rousing cheer. And then at practice this morning, I said, I didn't say it the other night, guys, but I thought about it. All you varsity guys, I said, you guys played a 1990s basketball game. And they're like, yeah. I go, yeah. I said, you guys, I could see in your eyes, it was rough. It was physical. If you drove to the lane, you were taking your life in your hands every step. I said, it was slaps, punches, elbows. I said, that was a 1990s basketball game. It wasn't that finesse crap you see today. You guys went through a meat grinder and won. So great job. But I said, but that's what I grew up playing. Like, you just, if you jumped, you might not land on your feet.
Yeah.
It was rough. But they did great. And that was this week in basketball. But I actually had a very, very, I would say positive, but excellent fishing related experience yesterday.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, I know that we had some different New Year's situations going on. Why don't we lead with yours? Because I think this is very, very interesting.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Obviously, everyone knows that we are very lucky to have Naqua on board with their products for our tournaments, our monthly tournaments every year, and they also have jumped in and provided a lot of product for the for MAKB tournaments, which is awesome.
And for those that aren't familiar with what Naqua does, Naqua's a really unique company because they have sort of like 2 sort of legs of the company. There's one that does lighting for water sports, so kayaks, paddle boards, things like that. The other thing that they do is batteries, and very, very unique batteries. These are very compact and very, very light batteries, and they hold up and they last.
Yes. And last year, or the year before, they started selling their power banks, which are waterproof. They're badass.
Great little accessory for like everything.
Exactly. Even if you're not an outdoorsman, I mean, I use mine at trivia all the time. If I come into trivia and my phone is dying, I only have 50% of a charge. I'll plug my Nocqua power bank right up to it, and it's good to go.
Yep.
Where this comes in for fishing, aside from the batteries, obviously you can use to power any number of electronic devices on your vessel. The power banks come in where, again, you don't have a charge for your phone. You need your phone for pictures. You're in a tournament. Why not charge it while you're out on the water, and then you've got that power available? It's they make some great products.
They do.
Anybody who's been listening to the show knows the whole Nocqua story started with me when I was using 12-volt sealed lead acid batteries. I dropped one on my foot about 10 years ago. I thought it was broken. I mean, it was like a 3 or 4 pound battery, and the corner hit my foot to the point where this is when I was in the military. I had to not run for the military for a certain amount of time because I thought my foot was broken.
Yeah.
And I always looked for an alternative. I came across the Nocqua batteries somehow, started using them. Rachel, RJW_My Marine World, was looking for battery substitutes. I suggested those to her. She and I worked together to get hers installed in her kayak. It was a wonderful Zoom call that lasted for hours. It was some fun stuff. It was like performing surgery.
Yeah.
When you're in America and the patient's in Afghanistan. I mean, it's similar. I mean, I'm not going to insult Afghanistan by saying it's as bad as New Jersey.
Close, though.
I know. Comparable. And from there, Rachel really got on board with Nocqua. She mentioned Nocqua, my name to Nocqua, and Heidi and Billy at Nocqua reached out to me at some point, and we have been supporting each other's businesses or passions, whatever, for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And Billy and Heidi have another passion, which is I don't even know how you describe them. It's a band called the Elevators. There's some reggae influence.
It's
there,
a white boy reggae
rock
group. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
So
it's good.
They have their thing. Yeah, it is. It's really chill. And they love going to their shows. And New Year's Eve, the Elevators are from Boston, and they played the House of Blues for New Year's Eve. So Billy and Heidi flew up from North Carolina. We're planning on catching the show, sticking in Boston for the weekend, catching the Panthers game, just watching it on TV at a bar. And I said, well, if you guys are going to be up here, they were excellent to me when I went and visited them in Charlotte this past summer. And I said, please, let's go grab some food, and I'll, bring the wife out to Boston. She likes to go to different cities. And we met up with them, had a great lunch, and got some stories. It was story time with Billy and Heidi.
Time.
There were 2 awesome stories, and I made sure to ask Billy if it was okay I tell these or repeat these on air.
Yep.
And he said yes. There was actually, I'm going to say the thing. There's a little teaser first that is unrelated to these 2 stories. The teaser is they've come up with a new product that works hand in hand with the power bank.
Yeah.
And they fired me one just to say, hey, we know you have plenty of these. We know you love them. I always ask for them for the tournaments because we know that any angler, regardless of skill level, even if they don't need a power bank, they can give it to a relative who probably will. Like that, these power banks are valuable to me beyond all, beyond any putting any value on them. They're crazy.
Oh yeah.
They have a product they're working on that we're probably going to see this year on their shelves and through retailers or whatever. They threw me one, and I can't really talk about it, but it's a nice little innovative thing. There's my teaser on that. Keep an eye on Nocqua and their retailers, their partnered retailers for that in the future. Now on to the stories. We were talking, somehow we got onto the subject of, and I don't even know how the conversation went this way. The videos that we have all seen all over the internet the past, 2-3 years, even more, with a small remote control boat where the frame has either been covered or replaced by a foam alligator head.
Oh yeah.
And the people drive them into other fishermen, and the fisherman shits their pants thinking it's a real alligator, et cetera. We've seen a few of those, right? I know one of them went around recently.
Oh yeah.
Somebody who was wading fishing, and their buddy drove it right into him, and the guy jumped into the water, freaked out. Well, Billy said to us that he believes he may have been one of the innovators of this trend, because the first time he did something like that was he got a hold or fabricated or got a hold of a foam alligator head and put it on a remote control boat. And they live on Lake Norman. So
Yeah.
he was zipping that thing everywhere to the point that the cops were called. People started reporting it as a live alligator. And he said, this is where I can't remember. I can't remember if it was him on the news or someone he knew on the news saying, "Oh, I saw that gator. It was easy 11, 12 footer." Even though it was a head zipping around.
Are they too north for there to be gators, or is Lake Norman further south enough for there to be?
I think North Carolina has gators, but I don't know if they have them in that particular part of North Carolina.
Gotcha.
So Billy said that he still has that original 20-year-old piece of foam.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so lifelike that it does have a hole in it from a 9mm bullet.
That's awesome.
So someone did take a shot at this gator. I was like, 20 years ago, like when was the first time I saw one of those things? I mean, I know I saw the fake floating heads maybe 15 years ago, but on a remote control boat, maybe 10 years. So if his timeline's right, Billy may be the innovator of one of the greatest pranks of all time. Can we verify this? I don't know. I'm not going to. It's
I don't know. It's
story.
possible,
I'm not worried about
it. I'm taking him at his word.
I love the fact that his has a hole in it. That's the best part.
That's kind of amazing.
Yes. The other story that he told was, and I didn't realize that they were involved in this, was I believe in 2014, Nakwa was reached out to by the production company that does The Bachelor. Mm-hmm. And Billy was tasked with heading down to The Bachelor that was, I guess, shot in Miami. And there was I don't know, whatever, last date or whatever on The Bachelor, the final date, whatever, the romantic fucking culmination of all the shenanigans, where there were 2 paddle boards that were used off a yacht on this date at night. So you could see the skyline of Miami, and they were equipped with Nakwa lights.
Yeah.
So he went down there, equipped the boards. What he described was while he was getting ready in the parking lot to bring all of his stuff on board, he was asked by another, I don't know, ship captain, first mate, somebody about what his timeline was, because it was another boat that needed to get in and get out. It was a 200-foot yacht.
Oh, right.
That turned out to be Mark Cuban's. And he actually told the captain was very interested in what he was doing, and he said, "Well, here's another set of lights. Can you make sure these are rigged up? I'll show you how to do it." And real quick, and he did. And he never heard back if those paddle boards of Mr. Cuban's were ever lit up and used, but there you go. That went that way. And then he said it was the eeriest thing, because out on that boat during that date, he was there as, technical assistance or whatever his term was.
Yeah.
And they just had to be quiet while the whole thing was going on. So he goes, it was kind of surreal. There we are in the bay in Miami, and we're just sitting there being quiet with a whole skylit thing and a date going on in the water with 2 people on paddle boards. And he goes, my lights were used, and this is one of the, a popular.
And we know beyond the shadow of a doubt that there was at least one shark on the water.
Yes.
At least one.
At least one. So, yeah, that was some interesting stuff from Heidi and Billy, but we had a blast with them. We ate at Joe's on Newberry. Have you ever graced Joe's on Newberry?
I've never been to Joe's, but I've been in that area quite a bit. How was it?
That was the single best macaroni and cheese I've ever eaten at a restaurant.
Really? Okay.
Yes. They were able to accommodate my needs and dietary needs. And that, my God, this macaroni and cheese. Now, my mistake was their nachos were also pretty much top notch. And we got an appetizer beforehand, and I housed 75% of a gigantic plate of nachos. And I got the macaroni and cheese. I'm like, I literally can't.
How am I going to put this down? Yeah.
I had nowhere to go with it. The food was phenomenal, and obviously the company was phenomenal as well.
Nice.
And we had a blast with Heidi and Billy. I guess they may have a return trip planned here in the spring, and I'll probably be seeing them at that point. But my God, what a great day yesterday was. My wife loves to travel. She loves to get into cities any chance she gets, Boston, New York City, whatever. Yeah. So she had a blast, and I can't thank Heidi and Billy enough. They're great to work with.
Definitely.
They're great people, and yeah, looking forward to March. So thanks to them, and What else can I say?
That's awesome, dude. One hell of that's a very unique but very enjoyable way to spend the first day of the year. Not bad.
Great way to start 2023 off on the right foot with that shit. It was good stuff.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then the rest of yesterday was lazy, just doing some things. I mean,
yep.
Why don't we talk about your day, and then we'll kill the rest of mine, because mine has I have a twist for us.
You have a twist? All right, so we'll talk my New Year's. So we mentioned the tooth, that's gone. My New Year's Eve this is the first New Year's Eve in a while that I have worked a private event for trivia. Usually when New Year's is on a weekday, lots of times, early on, it was like, oh, we're not going to do trivia on New Year's Eve because, it's going to be packed. No, now it's like, no, we definitely need to have trivia on New Year's Eve. In fact, there's pre-shutdown, I think there was one night where I did like 2 or 3 different trivia nights at 3 different venues on New Year's Eve. Yeah, just because the demand was there. People were like, no, we don't want to miss it. Or, oh, we want to do an extra one. Can you do one here? Or we'll do something like that. So I talked with the event coordinators that put this event together, and this has a little jigs and bigs tie, which is weird. And it wasn't a tie beforehand, but I talked with them. So I'm going to talk about this like I spoke with them, because I'm not shielding anything. That they know exactly where my head was at. So I explained to the woman who had booked me. This was the mother of the birthday girl. I was just like, I was a little bit apprehensive about this event, just because of like when I had gotten all the info. There's a lot of what would be considered red flags. First off was this. It was a 5-hour trivia night.
Ooh.
Okay. It was on New Year's Eve, right? Which means that on holidays, basically, I take to make sure that I'm available to do family stuff, I increase my rates substantially. So that this way, if I have to spend a Thanksgiving away from the family, like it's going to cover our, vacation that summer or something like that. So it's usually, it's not meant as like a way to make a bunch of money. It's more or less so that I know people are going to be like, I'm not paying that much. Well, they paid that much. They had no issues with it whatsoever. And this was a small gathering, New Year's Eve at a residence, 5-hour trivia night with, music in between, DJing and stuff. So it was a little bit of a combo package. And 21st birthday.
Yeah.
Third red flag, 19 guests.
Ooh.
So there's a theory when it comes to entertaining. It is way easier to entertain a large crowd than it is a smaller crowd, because you'll be able to get it's a numbers game. You'll be able to get so many people that are engaged, having fun and a good time. Then it becomes almost kind of contagious. You don't really, the separation of like who's involved with whatever the activity isn't as obvious. But when you start reducing those numbers down, it starts to be a little bit more apparent. And if you have a room with like, a small number of people, like less than 40 people, and you're, the majority of those people are not engaged with what you're doing, that's where it's like, oh, now I got to figure something out. How am I going to get everybody involved? So what we did was, and I use this as an opportunity to play around with a couple of different packages that I'm putting together specifically toward like the elevated game night type stuff. Well, the third one being there was only 19 people. We'll see how it goes. So I was talking with the mom who had organized all this stuff, and she says, she goes, we were like, we really should kind of have some kind of entertainment. It would be better if it was like maybe a game show or something. This way, like they're just not going to sit there and pound drinks constantly until midnight and get sloppy and a mess and everything else. I was like, you guys are smart. I was like, the other, do they know that there's going to be a DJ in the backyard? So they had rented a tent. It was a really, really small tent, heated, and actually the weather was so high that heater was off for about 90% of the time we were in there. Like once everybody was in there, it was plenty warm in that tent without it. It got way too warm with the heat going on. So I get there for the first hour. I'm just kind of playing music and, getting some stuff together. And I had some great, that program that I run for the pictures so people can text pictures. Great stuff being sent over there. Like, this is a great group of kids. She's like, we wanted to make sure that they had an activity. I said, it's cool. So this is sort of my plan. I go, I'm going to wait about an hour, let everybody kind of show up and make sure everybody's here. Then we'll get everybody connected after like that first half hour. We'll start, getting folks connected and ready to play. Best if they play as individuals with this small of a group, or if they want to team up, maybe team up in pairs, something like that. And it worked out. Most people were just individuals. It was great. I did 2 full music rounds with them. I did 2 full general knowledge trivia rounds with a half hour in between each one. Just giving them time to, have some munchies, have a couple of drinks, get back into the game. And it wasn't like game all the way, like, keeping it. Since I had the breathing room, to be able to do this, it worked out really, really well. Took some requests, everything else. They loved sending pictures to the screen, and I'm going to get all those pictures over to the birthday girl. So she was absolutely loving it. I got to tell you, nobody puked. There were no fights. There was no anything. It was, without a doubt, it was a dream to entertain this group of young 20-somethings. Absolutely amazing. Like, really, really fantastic. They love the game. They got super competitive. I was able to do a little bit of like trash talking here and there, and it was just fantastic. Really, really fun. I think for the music rounds I did I do 2 or 3? I think I did 3 actually, and I combined 2 of them together. I did one that was 20 questions of all the TikTok songs from 2022. This was the round from last week, and I just used that because I knew it was right in their wheelhouse, and they loved it. Then I did what was the other round that I did? I did the terrible karaoke. That was the last one. And I did the one round that has like a bunch of new metal in it. Oh my God, it was ridiculous.
Terrible karaoke is such a gem.
Oh, it's so good. It just delivers all the time, and it gets really, really good laughs. And I love it when people are like, wait, hold on, you take karaoke videos that you found online? And oh no. And then I always tell everybody, of course, like I get them from like only a couple of sources, but I always tell people at every event, I'm like, some of you may be guilty of posting these videos and you might hear yourself sing right now. And that always gets a good laugh. And then I forget what the third one was that I did, but it was cringy songs is what it was. And that one, I knew it was... From the age of the folks at the event, I knew that like a lot of those like television show theme songs and stuff were right in their age demographic. So I was like, this is great. It'll get a good laugh. We did general knowledge on either side. We did like true general knowledge to start the game. And then I did Mandela effect at the very end. This is when they were getting tipsy. And they were like, what's the real Fruit of the Loom logo? I don't even know. Check my underwear. It was ridiculous. But they had a great time. They really, really did. It ended like, so let's fast forward to midnight. I have the countdown going of the Boston time zone of the countdown to the new year going. I'm watching that like a hawk. I have a video that's a 10-second like generic New Year's Eve. I have Old Lang Syne queued up and ready to go. I have the New Year from Death Cab for Cutie queued up and ready to go. I have Fun's We Are Young queued up and ready to go. I transition into all this stuff, and then I just start dropping like club bangers after this. I'm full volume now, and this is what's amazing. I'm going to tell you something that I was told by the party or organizer. She's like, they were in the house right there. We were in the backyard. She's like, we couldn't hear anything. It was great. Not a problem. She's like, you were fantastic. Like we thought, and I was only using like I use at trivia, 1 speaker. So I'm like, there's only 19 people. I'm not going to use this giant, I had everything for a big event that I'm doing on Tuesday, but I'm like, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to need here. Let's see what we're dealing with for space. When I saw that, I was like, okay, cool. Nice, simple trivia setup. I go and I get to my last song, which is like this club remix of Don't Stop Believin'. Everybody's standing up in front of the speakers, dancing and singing along and like, spilling champagne over one another. Like still for New Year's Eve, par for the course. That is great. Yep. everything ends, and I'm like, all right, guys, have a great night. I'll see you, blah, 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 blah. Everything's cool. I'm cleaning up. The kids are all about to go back into the house. And right at midnight, we heard fireworks all over us, like all over the place. Like people are just going crazy. Well, some asshole on that street called the cops about the fireworks. And the cops showed up at the tent. And they're like, oh, yeah, you guys just want to keep it down? Like someone called and said you were shooting off fireworks. And I jumped right up because I was like, I'm the only sober one here. Nobody in here was shooting fireworks. I was like, just a heads up. We're wrapping things up. I get that you heard us out there. I'm packing up and heading out. But I was like, that did not come from us. That was somewhere else. Because there's also, in the area where we were, there was like a dedicated fireworks show, I think at like 9 o'clock. Something like that. So like that was already going along anyway, but some asshole neighbor, and come to find out, like there was a big party across the street. Both of the neighbors on either side of this house, one was out of town and the other one had an invite to come to the party. I guess they were in the house with the parents the whole time. So it wasn't somebody that was right there. It was just ridiculous. So I was like, oh, all right, cool. I'm like, well, at least all the, shirts were on all the men, because usually that's how a Bobby Roast Beef party ends, was with a bunch of shirtless men for whatever reason. Take that for what it is. They had a blast, but as I'm packing up, there's one guy, Jack, and dealing with the cops and everything totally screwed up my game. But I'm actually gonna mail the birthday girl some stickers, Jigs and Big stickers, for him, because he said to me, he's like, I forgot to take down one of the ads on the screen, and it was well, and he was like, yeah. So what's the name of your podcast again? I said, oh, it's called Jigs and Bigs. I said, you should give it. I go, it's a fishing podcast. Do you fish? He's like, dude, do I fish? Absolutely, I fish. And I told him, I said, I'm going to run out to the truck when I start loading my gear up. I'll grab you a sticker. I forgot about that, so I'm going to put some in the mail to give to her, to give to him, and get that all handled. But man, it was wild. I got home at like 3 o'clock. It was a long night. Luckily, the rain had just ended, like about just before 1 o'clock. So it wasn't too bad driving home. Driving out there was just dumping rain. Driving home, it was all right. No real drama or anything. And definitely nothing that involved me. Saw a lot of flashing lights on the way home, which totally makes sense. I got home, got into bed. I slept until I think 10:30 or 11 o'clock. I was like, don't wake me up. I'm just going to freaking pass out. So I slept great. Got up that morning, and my wife says to me, hey, what do you say we go out on New Year's Day and we go out for appetizers and some drinks? I said, I love that idea. So we hit up a local spot near to us that we really, really enjoy. And the kids love when we go, because we usually order a bunch of takeout and bring them home dinner when we do this, which is exactly what we did. This is Riffs. I went there with Gravy when we fished last summer together. And they have a little lounge in there called the Hideaway Lounge. Just tiny little bar. I think you should check out this menu. It's really good. They have lots of items that would lean into what you need. So they're a little bit more up to speed than some other spots, but absolutely out of this world. I had the first cocktail I had was because I had just watched the video that Becca had posted from our trip when we truck camped out at the Cape. So I saw on the specials board up there, they had this cocktail called Winter on the Cape. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do this. It was, I think, a black fig vodka, cranberry juice, elderflower liqueur, and there was something else, some kind of bitters, I think. And this was absolutely gorgeous. It came with this like sugar-crusted sprig of rosemary, which I've learned a thing or two about garnishes. Like, the reason that garnish is there, leave it where it is. And when you take your sip, you want to be able to smell it, is what you want. That's really what it is. And it was absolutely out of this world. Like, am I secure enough to drink a pink drink? Hell yes, I'm secure enough of a man to drink a pink drink. This was delicious. In fact, a little too delicious, because I could have, if I stayed with this one drink, I would have just kept putting them bang, 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 one after another. Could have been a bad scene. So I switched over to a type of, they called it an alphabet mafia. which is a rye-based cocktail, which is definitely more in my wheelhouse. I normally go toward different whiskeys, and I love a good rye. So this had some type of rye. It had one of the is it Luxardo or Luxardo? I think it's Luxardo. Those fancy cherries. That's what it is. Absolutely delicious. This was great. I had 2 of those, and my wife had this one drink called a Princess Pine. My wife is a big gin fan, and this was one of her favorite gins. It's called Empress, and it's got a little purple tinge to it, and they play off of that. Same thing as the first drink. She's like, they just go down so easy. I could just drink them, no problem. Then my wife switched to beer. And she discovered her favorite. She says this is her favorite IPA. She's a fan of double IPAs. She was drinking, what is it? Sip of Sunshine, I think is what it's called. And this is more of like a traditional, straightforward, like English style IPA. It's not hazy or juicy, or it's not like anything like that. This is more straightforward, but it is bitter as fuck. And she loves that. Like, that's right up her alley. Same thing, like gin. Like, she just loves that. And she's like, this is out of this world. I was like, really? I would not figure you, because normally the IPAs that I see her drinking are really juicy. You know, they're really like those hazy New England style ones, but she's like, no, this was awesome. Sip of Sunshine, absolutely out of this world. So this is good. I made a note while I was there so that I could keep track of these types of things, so that when, you know, I take the girl camping, I can throw some Sip of Sunshine in the cooler, and then she'll be good to go.
There you go.
You know,
and apparently a gallon of gin.
Well, that's easy. That's all we need. A little purple gin, we'll be good to go. But
I fooled you, Holly. You thought this was extra gas. Nope, it's gin. And the nice thing is, it's so cheap that if we need to use it to run the car,
exactly. I'll just keep it in a jerry can. It won't even be any problem. It'll be great. We'll call it a ginny can.
There you go. Speaking of party time,
yes.
I have some party. I totally forgot about what led up to my New Year's, which got boring as we progressed, got more boring as we progressed. But Friday night, the 30th.
Yep.
Got my old man. My dad is now into his 70s. My dad keeps shit hardcore. My dad keeps shit real, right? I mentioned to him a few months ago, I said, Dad, Kill Switch Engage is playing a holiday show.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And I said, you know, Dad, heads up, like the Worcester Palladium, for anybody who's not New England, their promotion's great. They get a ton of hard rock and metal bands in.
Yep.
The problem is, man, that venue sound sucks. It is so bad. It is. I've seen more concerts there than.
Oh yeah, there's great shows.
Yeah, it's just the sound is so bad. And here's what the trick is, like. If a band goes in there and turns their volume down just a couple of notches, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Everyone tries to blow the doors off, and it always sounds like shit. So the lineup for the night was a band called Libeca, Libeca. That's what it was. Which was an instrumental side project from Kill Switch Engage's drummer. He was playing guitar. So that was cool. Actually, it was
really? Okay.
Somewhere between hard rock and heavy metal and just instrumental, and people were quiet and listened to it, and it sounded fantastic. Then Rivers of Nile, one of my favorite death metal bands, was on.
Yes.
And their sound was shot. I was a little disappointed. I figured they were going to plaster us to a wall, and the sound was not good. Then up next, a band that I've been waiting to see for a long, long time. Local, just one of those local bands I haven't been able to see. Unearth.
Yep.
They're from Boston.
Yep.
Their sound, again, just too much for the Palladium. And then Kill Switch Engage played. And then my dad was unhappy because my dad likes his covers. And one of Kill Switch Engage's biggest hits, shall we say, is their cover of Dio's Holy Diver.
Yep.
Yeah, they didn't play it. So my dad wasn't too happy. On top of that, the one good spot for sound in the Palladium is right up against the bar behind the soundboard.
Yeah.
And we sat, me and my dad got there early enough. We lined right up. Now the whole line, there was a line going across the entire Palladium.
Mm-hmm.
It almost cut the place in half for the Kill Switch Engage merch. All right.
Really?
It was constantly 50 people deep, minimum. It was going across the front of the bar all the way down into the pit. It was a line.
Because, usually they have the merch set up. If you're facing the stage, it's like to your left, right?
Yep, there were yes, correct. That was the big merch one, and then they had merch for Kill Switch and Unearth on one side, and the other side of the bar they had Libica and Rivers of Nile stuff set up. Now I still got my merch. I did actually get. I'll show you later after we get off the air. I got a very nice Kill Switch Engage print. I like my artwork when I go to concerts. I picked that up, but. So the line was going across, and I said, well, as soon as this line dies, we'll be able to see the stage. And we were having problems seeing the stage from where we were at. It never stopped. All that line did was basically make 2 rows of people, 3 rows, the line, people up against the bar, and the people up against the railing. Yeah. It was impossible to see the show. The sound sucked to the point where the other folks that were at the show were Mike and Tim and Cindy. Yep. Tim O'Keefe, his wife Cindy, and Mike Mariani, who we fish with. And they're not 6 foot. My dad's what, 6'2", and I'm 6'4", and we couldn't see.
So for them, they're not seeing shit.
They were not. So we spent most of the night, all 5 of us, turned around facing the bar where there were now flat screen monitors. So I had heard that there was some money dumped into the Palladium during the pandemic to get the place sorted out. And I was hoping it was going to affect the sound. It did not. They spent a lot of money on, they obviously put a nice clean coat of paint on. Yep. Kudos to them. It needed it. And then they spent a lot of money on monitors for all over the place. And I have to say, I think I'm done with going to shows there. I can't.
You know, the issue with sound in the Palladium is a big venue if you're a local band. But in the grand scheme of things, it is a very small room. It's not that big. The issue with a lot of those groups is that lots of times you're hearing you're hearing so much coming from the amps on stage directly that the person who is actually doing the sound can't do anything because it's just too loud up front. Like there's not enough for them to be able to handle. So by keeping that volume level, that stage level lower, and I'm not talking about the monitor level, I'm talking about the actual tolerable level, then you can use the house system to actually do what it's supposed to do and distribute all that sound. What ends up happening is it's like the vocals are coming through the PA at that point, and all the guitars are just coming straight from the stage.
Well, you know what ends up happening? Actually, it's not the vocals, it's the other end. It's like you're inside of a kick drum the entire show.
Well, and that's another part of it too. I'm curious, how many of those drum kits had a partition set up in front of it? A glass partition, fiberglass partition? None. That would have helped a lot.
It was bad. Yep. So I think, it's a shame.
But it kills the energy to do that. That's the problem. Yeah. That's the trade-off,
And the only band that I've noticed it's really that in my time of going to shows there that's actually thrown a fit about the sound, and this was on stage, and there was a lot of alcohol involved. Yeah. And I say that because I watched the guy who threw the fit drink. I'm not even going to name the band. I saw one band that I had bragged to. I had seen this band play at the House of Blues, where the sound, of course, is fucking pristine in Boston. And a month later, they were still on the same tour, and they were playing the Palladium. And I said, man, you got to go see this stage show they've got. It's really good. And even the guitarist of this band threw a fit.
Is this band big enough where you could say the situation and who they are and it's not going to affect them? Or are they that small of a band where our audience...
You can decide. I'm going to leave.
You can say who they are. Trust me, I think they're going to be okay.
No. I'm fine with it. Yeah. I'm fine with saying it. I'll tell you why I'm not saying it off air.
Oh, all right.
I have my own reasons. And the guitarist threw a shit fit, walked off stage, and I'd seen the guitarist imbibing heavily before the show, but he even said, how do you guys like being fucking deaf? This sucks. Like, he knew it from on stage that this was not good. Now, professionalism would have dictated just to carry on as the rest of the band members did, but he was not pleased. Not a big deal, but that place, I love the lineups they have. I hate the sound, and it's at a point now where like my dad and I were talking on the way home. It's just one of the shows. I think the first show he ever saw there was we caught the Black Crowes when they came back from one of their hiatuses.
Yep.
The volume was down, and it sounded great.
Yeah.
It's just like the volume doesn't need to be at whatever level the metal bands are all setting it at. It needs to be down like 2 notches, and everyone will be able to hear it. That's
exactly it. And that's the thing. A lot of these bands that tour, like Killswitch plays giant fucking stages, giant rooms. They know.
They opened for Iron Maiden for like a year.
Yeah, they know. They played with massive bands in giant arenas. They know. You know, they're fully aware, but it's so hard to have that level of awareness when you're trying to put on this great show in essentially your hometown crowd. You know what I mean? And you're trying, you know, you're obviously focused on that end. I'm sure these guys are having some drinks and hanging out and doing their thing, you know, and it's like so yeah, they might be a little turned up. So what is turned up okay for, like, you know, a giant stadium, you know, like the Boston Garden or some shit like that, for a room like the Palladium is probably going to be too loud.
Yeah, and I will say one last thing on this to put the nail in the coffin on this show, which just sucked. Killswitch, whether it was a local show and or was the fact that they got popular with that Dio cover, they're not attracting that metal crowd. Like, I like going to metal shows. Like, we all think that metal shows have this violent reputation, or there's that popular conception out there that, oh, metalheads are out there worshiping Satan, wanting to kill their mother. Most of the time at metal shows, there's a mosh pit with a small percentage of people being stupid in the mosh pit. Well, at least they're contained, right?
Yeah.
And the rest of the crowd is guitar players and drummers and their girlfriends.
Yeah.
And everyone's watching the show and getting into it and grooving. And it's an older crowd too. When it comes to Killswitch now, again, I don't know if they've gotten to that level of popularity, but man, there was a lot of Five Finger Death Punch shirts walking around.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
It was
dude.
a lot of. It was a very meathead crowd. Yep. A lot of way drunk. And I know it's the holidays, but it was not the crowd I've seen at Killswitch shows. So I was like, okay, so this is over the shark. I'm good. So we'll lay that to rest. That was that night. And then the next night was New Year's Eve. We actually had a very quiet New Year's Eve in my house. My youngest son had his girlfriend over. They were hanging out. My wife and I played board games. We got a whole bunch of board games for Christmas. We played a bunch of different ones.
Nice.
And then I did all the driving. So I didn't even touch any sleepy medicine until I got home. Sleepy tobacco, excuse me. And then the weird thing about the night was it was so warm up here. It was
it was crazy.
60 degrees during the day, I think. When I drove my son to go pick his girlfriend up, and then when I drove her home with him in the car, we have a bridge that's maybe about less than a mile away from the center of Springfield. And when I go over this bridge right by my house, I can see the Basketball Hall of Fame. I can see all the skyscrapers. There's 4 skyscrapers or 3 in Springfield. It was so foggy. I thought there was a fucking power outage in Springfield. I could not see any lights, any of them, nothing. Not on Interstate 91, not on Route 5 across the river. Could not see the Basketball Hall of Fame, which has rows and rows and rows of color-changing, blinking lights. I couldn't see any of it. I said, holy shit, somebody's going to die tonight. So I white-knuckled it to and from her house to drop her and pick her up and drop her off.
Yep.
And it was I don't know how we didn't hear massive reports of accidents on New Year's Eve. So kudos to everyone who was out there driving safely or got an Uber or whatever, a taxi, because that was some shit conditions to be out partying in. And that's my New Year's weekend.
Yeah.
That's what I did. That's what I did on my summer vacation.
Yeah, exactly. And here we are, 2023, just living our best lives.
Yeah. I have some 2023 news to follow. Well, not news. We talked about it last week with Ken.
Yep.
But I wanted to follow up with a few things. So we have with MAKB, I think this is an appropriate time to jump in on this with MAKB. So we're working hard behind the scenes, but as Ken and Bobby and I talked about last week, we now have 4 divisions. All right. I made mention a couple times during Ken's interview about what we called standardizing the schedule. It doesn't mean that all the events are on the same day. It means that every division is now going to have 6 events, 1 event per month from April through September.
Yeah.
And then we have a champ that you can, qualify for the championship in a couple of different ways, Angler of the Year points or certain, finishing high. And I believe it's, man, I can't remember if we were using a percentage or a top number.
Yeah.
Either or. There's 2 ways to qualify: total Angler of the Year points or qualification through an Angler of the Year event.
Gotcha.
Yep. So those events will all pour into the championship. And then we had a discussion and came to a very interesting compromise that Ken had suggested. I believe he talked about with Mike Morcone. So I'm going to give both of the, definitely Ken got credit. I think Mike deserves a little bit of credit here too. We always seem to struggle every year with MAKB about how exactly to do the Angler of the Year calculations. And there's a couple of different trains of thought because we have different levels of experience and some anglers are looking for different things and have really different big picture goals. And we want to try and cater to both. So I'm not going to get too deep into the details, but it looks like each division will have their own Angler of the Year. And on top of that, there will be one single Angler of the Year with a slightly, let me underline that, slightly different set of criteria for all of MAKB. These 2 awards will work in conjunction with each other. One is not better than the other. You know what I'm saying? You can win your division, and that is, believe me, just as good as winning the bigger one, the overall AOY. For the division ones, we talked about having a minimum amount of events. So if we have 6 events, you've got to make 5 of them, and the championship will not count towards your Angler of the Year for your division. For the overall, I'm using that term very loosely, for that single big one MAKB Angler of the Year, it will be a certain number of MAKB events with no division minimal requirement. So if you fish 6 events or 7 events, you can split them up relatively equally between all 4 divisions if you want, and the championship counts for that one. Because the big sticking point was, does the championship count or does the championship not?
Yeah.
And it seems to really be divided into 2 parties. One party believes it should not, and I'm on this side because in most major sports, your MVP award does not count the playoffs. It's the regular season.
It's the
MVP
regular
award.
season, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then then from there they'll either do like college basketball. They'll do your conference playoff MVP and then the whole big tournament MVP.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's breakdowns, but their season MVP is by itself, and it doesn't include the postseason. The other side of the fence, which I think Ken is on, and most fishing competitive leagues deal with, is including the championship, including those points, and giving a boost. So maybe the championship's points are worth 1.5. They have a multiplier with them
Because they made it there. Yeah,
exactly. They made it there, and this event should be a higher level of competition. So I get that. I just don't like it. I mean, I'm old school sports. I wanted it the old way. Ken always argue the other way, as he's fishing and not much into sports. But he and like I said, if Mike Morcone was behind this too, give Mike credit. He came up with this compromise. We're going to do both, and I think it's a great idea. So
cool.
That's a good thing.
That's awesome.
The other bit of news I have, Bobby, and I mentioned this to you.
Yep.
I'm just going to really kind of tease this because there is a lot of work that has to go into this from this point.
Sure.
Obviously, with all the time I spend and you spend in contact and dealing with Three Bells.
Yep.
We got to a point last year where Three Bells evaluated what my goals were on the water.
Yep. Yeah.
And how my performance has been the past couple of years with those goals in mind. And we decided to go in a different direction with watercraft.
Oh yeah.
So starting this year, I'll be fishing out of a Jackson Nar.
That's gnarly.
So it is. And this is a little teaser because the general game plan is, obviously I have a lot of accessories on my current kayak that need to be swapped over. There needs to be quite a bit of modification done.
Yep.
As soon as basketball ends. So I probably have maybe a 2 to 3 week window when all the basketball's over. Derek at Three Bells and I'll be bringing the old kayak down. We'll be swapping as much as we can over, doing the whole modification. He is planning on filming this. So keep an eye on Three Bells social media for a whole bunch of tips. You can see how Derek and I approach this, any problems we encounter, any I'm not going to say problems, any stumbling blocks, any hurdles we weren't really ready for. And we're going to swap all the gear out from one kayak to another. And hopefully, depends on how swollen my piggy bank is, I've been very diligent about saving my nickels, dimes, and pennies for a bit. And I might have the chance to install some forward-facing sonar.
Look at that.
Going forward and learning that this year, because there's some bodies of water I believe you just need it.
Yep.
You know, even Ken mentioned that in a roundabout way, I think, with talking about Winnipesaukee, that there are certain fishermen who do well there. And it just so happens that I think those certain fishermen tend to have forward-facing sonar.
Yep.
You know, big, deep lakes where the fish are all over the place. You need it.
Yeah.
So I'm getting into that world. That'll be fun.
That'll be fun. You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
I've been doing a little bit of planning too.
Oh. I love it. What do you got?
So we are officially under the heading right now, the road to Chickamauga, because this is going. I've been in touch with Caleb. I've also been in touch with Alex Rudd, and most importantly with Paul, the one and only Polish Hammer. Now,
Polish Hammer.
What's interesting about today? So we're recording this show, and it is Monday, January the 2nd right now. 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago? Yeah, 3 weeks ago, I set an alarm on my phone asking to, basically reminding myself to reach out to Paul and say, hey, bud, have you talked to your wife yet about going to Tennessee with me in March? And obviously he already has, so I didn't need this reminder, but I was going to tell him, like, dude, you need to do it today. Give her some notice so that we can go forward. Obviously we don't have to worry about that, but we are so the road to Chickamauga, this is going. We're planning things together. We're working on gathering info for lodging to figure out what we're going to do. We're not going to camp when we're down there. Instead, we're going to be staying at a place that is recommended to stay from a lot of guides that are in this area. So it would be pretty cool. I'm going to document all this stuff as it goes on. So as things start to get confirmed and everything, we're going to let people know like where we're at, and obviously we're going to try to create a shitload of content for after the trip when everything is done. So we'll put that out too. This I'm looking so much forward to. Like I can't even begin to put it into perspective.
You're pumped about this, man.
So that's Chickamauga. Then over this last week, my wife's been off, and I'm really glad like she took this job as a school nurse, because now she's got some time off. We had a great week this week, and there was one day where I was looking a lot in. I like to look at what folks that are into the truck camping scene, the overlanding scene in New England, like the trails that they're going to, where it is that they're camping, things like what do we have? There's no shortage of resources a little further out west when it comes to national parks and BLM property. You're going to hear this stuff come up in our discussion with Roger, but I came up with a plan in order, some great camping around Moosehead Lake.
Ooh.
In Maine. Yeah, the largest freshwater body of water in Maine, which I didn't realize that was the case, but that's the case. So I found a spot that I'm going to go and camp in, and I hit up Delirious, and I said, dude, what do you say you and I go up in May? We go and make this happen. A little pilgrimage up there, you and I. He's like, I love fishing in Maine. Let's do it. So we're working on that. We're going to pick a weekend in May to kind of make it happen, go up. This will actually probably be a little bit longer of a trip, a few days.
Bobby, let me pause on that.
Yep.
For a second. Isn't Moosehead Lake where my buddy put us up during the EKF KBF tournament last year? I'm pretty sure it is.
I don't know.
Let me contact him and save a whole bunch of money. Because he has property on the lake.
The place that we're going to is a free camp area. Like it's dispersed camping. But I mean, if it is, this is up there. This is way up there. Yeah, check it out. Check it out and see what the scoop is. But yeah, so Delirious and I are gonna head up there, do a little bit of ascend. So that's in May. I just confirmed a week in August where we are looking at, the family is looking at going back to Myrtle Beach. Now, we haven't been to Myrtle Beach, I think, since 2018, but it's great. If you've never been to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, you should go. It's a great place, especially if you've got a family. It is awesome. There's so much fun stuff to do. The beach is ideal, but I'm going to take advantage of this. I told my wife, I said, well, and this is one of those situations where I'm glad that I have these travel rods, because now I can put together a little setup, and I'm going to try to network with some people that fish in South Carolina and hit them up, and we'll go and do some fishing down in South Carolina as well. So far it looks like we got March, May, and August. There was something I thought I had going in July that might be floating, but I'm not 100% sure. And I still want to get back down to Crumpton for round number 2 and see if we can get on some snakehead. So we'll see what happens with that. But so my New Year's resolution of traveling more is happening. And there's actually a January trip. This one's a little bit different though. I've been actually talking with Todd Grubb, and he and I, we might take a walk through and check out the, I believe it's called the Narragansett Surfcasters Club. They're doing a show on the 14th. Let me actually take a look and see about the details with that, because it was Matt Thayer from Klondike Custom Creations that he had posted something about, it's Saturday, January the 14th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., the Narragansett Community Center, 53 Mumford Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island. There's a bunch of vendors that are going to be there with all kinds of stuff, and it's being organized by Narragansett Surfcasters. Definitely check it out. There's our RD Custom Plugs will be there, Larson Lures, 401 Plugs, Solstice Lures, Vinny's Custom Baits, and of course, the one and only Klondike Custom Creations. So we're going to go and visit Matt. And then I told, because Todd just got his hands on a nice new rig for camping. Did you see this van?
No, I did not.
Oh my goodness! So he actually has some equipment in here that he's planning on taking out and selling. There's like a wheelchair lift in this van. It is a camper van. It already has a bed in there. In fact, dude, this is the ultimate '90s kid like throwback camper right here, because it's got a built-in CRT TV with a VHS machine, and he's got a stack of videos. Like all kinds of like what was it? One of them was The Lion King that he was watching. There was another Bruce Willis movie that he had on. But I told him, I said, I was like, let's just we'll meet up there. We'll go do that show, and then we'll just camp. We'll camp somewhere in Rhode Island, or maybe we'll go specifically and do some carp fishing. I'm like, I'm game for whatever. Let's just go and do it. So there's going to be, and this one, the primary reason that I'm going to do this in January is to road test that electric blanket that little Mr. Santa Claus dropped off to me.
Nice.
Yeah. So we'll see how that works. You might end up having Bobby Roast Beefsicle, that following week for the show. Who knows? Or, maybe I'll be well done. So.
Yep. Quick correction. I was looking while we were talking here.
Yep.
It was Great Moose Lake is where my buddy.
Oh, Great
okay,
Moose
so
Lake.
I was incorrect on that. Great Moose Lake, not Moosehead Lake, although Moosehead Lake is gigantic.
Moosehead Lake is enormous. The spot that we're looking at going, I don't know if you can see it. I think it's called Cohen's Cove.
No.
Cowan's Cove.
I'm skirting around southern Maine now, looking at Lake Sebago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where my other buddy
multitasking here, but no, the dude, good. Let me know when you go up there. If it's a weekend I can get up there, maybe I'll accompany you.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. I think what I'm gonna actually do is set it up And I'm going to try to do like a nice long stretch and like really go and relax and take it all in. My thought is that, that time of the year, it's going to be great spring fishing. I'm hoping for that far north. That's what I'm really, really hoping. So it could be great. It could be really, really great. And
all we have to really do is talk with the Pendergasts.
Yep.
Say, hey, give us an ice report. That's all we need, because that ice stays up.
I know.
They sometimes don't get going until late April, early May. So we never know. But yeah, keep me in the loop. I'd be happy to jump in on that.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. It'll be a good time. But that's what I've been working on here. We've got some stuff together. I'm psyched though, man. Chickamauga is the big one. I'm really, really stoked about getting out and doing that. I'm already like I can't wait until ice is gone and I can just drop the kayak in the water again. I can't wait.
We don't even have it yet.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's crazy.
Yep. I did get a bunch of phone calls from a friend of ours.
Yep.
Dude. This weekend, he was trying to wrap up his 2022 with I guess he's in a monthly tournament, KBF monthly tournament.
That's right.
And he was having some issues finding open water on the Cape on Saturday. Even the Cape had skim ice. So
yeah.
Was it Saturday? I'm sorry, Friday or Saturday? No, it must have been Saturday. So yeah, he was skipping and pond hopping on the Cape on Saturday, and he was having difficulty. And then the temperatures got up, and I said, you might want to just wait till the afternoon, man, and see if you can get something right before dusk. I mean, it's got the 60 degrees out here should give the the ice a chance to melt throughout the course of the day. And it was only skim ice anyway, so there was a legit shot that some of it would be gone or most of it. And I don't know how he fared. I wasn't paying attention to that tournament because I was paying attention to basketball.
Oh, it makes sense.
Surprise.
I feel like I just saw a post from Nate. And I feel like he's like something good is going on. I should go through my calendar, man, and take a look at what we got. Some guests coming up, guys. The Friday I'm recording with Noel Roth. Looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome. I've got we got a recording coming up with Fresh Baits as well, and Bass and Brit. Bass and Brit is going to be with us, and that's so. I mean, that's 3 more interviews this week. I'm telling you guys, this is going to be an amazing year for Jigs and Bigs. We also for what it's worth, just a little nod to ourselves here, but we just hit 14K on Instagram. Yes. We did. It's been quite a while. We've been floating at that 13.5 number. Like, I'm talking a good 6-7 months. It's been a while. We've been sitting at that one spot. We just tipped over 14K, and thank you. We appreciate you guys for following and checking us out and checking all this stuff out, and hopefully you enjoy it. So one thing that I would like to do, and I usually throw this call to action out toward the very, very end of the show, but if you're listening right now, guys, and you're out there catching fish, wherever you are, if you're on the ice, you're dealing with winter fishing down south, whatever it is, do me a favor. If you're posting pics of your catches, tag us in them. Please just go ahead and tag us in them. So that way we kind of have an idea of who's listening to the show, where they are, who's catching what, how it's going for them, all that kind of stuff. In fact, if you want to give us some information about like your average go of it, go for it. Throw us a DM. We'll give it a mention, like how it's been near you, whatever your experience has been this weekend, this winter. Man, it's just been nuts. I think we should go ahead and wrap things here if you don't have anything else to throw out there.
Last thing I can say is, as we get closer and closer for me to March, I'm going to start working on stuff, I think, this week. But as we get closer and closer to March, you guys can expect a return to our normal format.
Yeah.
This is what, week 3 or 4, where we've just kind of done the holiday segment 1. We've got a lot on our plate. Bobby and I both have families and a lot of crazy shit going on. You guys can expect just a tip, fuck that guy.
Yep.
The tournament reports, all that'll be back soon. Thank you for sticking with us through the holidays, and we hope everyone had a really good and safe holiday.
Yeah.
Both of them.
It sounds that way, at least from the people that we're closely in contact with. It sounds like there was no real crazy drama or anything like that. But man, friggin' Wild. 2023.
Yes.
Let's make the best of it, guys. I love it. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to be back in a couple of minutes, guys. We've got much more Jigs and Bigs goodness coming up for you. Right after this break, we've got Roger Young, GGG4r on YouTube. If you're listening to this and you hear this interview and you think maybe you want to know a little bit more, I'm actually going to I'm going to put a link in the description of this show of his video, the one that inspired me to even reach out to him about overlanding, what you really need to get started. And it's going to shock you how minimalist it can go. Had a great conversation with this guy. Sean and I are going to get him in a kayak and do some bass fishing when he comes out east. And when I go out west, we're going to go off-roading and I'm going to destroy my 4Runner. Is what's going to That's pretty much what's going to happen. It'll be good times. I'll leave the West Coast with big repair bills. It'll be awesome. It'll be great.
Yay.
All right, guys. We'll see you in about 2 minutes. Don't go too far. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form content. For all your premium kayak needs, we partner with Three Bells Outfitters, located along Smith Cove in Niantic, Connecticut. Three Bells is your go-to location for kayaks and accessories from Hobie, Native, Bonafide, Jackson, Yak Attack, Naqua, Boondocks, Burley Pro, and many more. Financing options are available to upgrade you and your kayak fishing experience. White glove delivery service is also available. Visit threebellsoutfitters.com for more info, and don't forget to tell them that Jigs and Bigs sent you. When it comes to high-quality polarized sunglasses, we've partnered with Torres. They provide stylish sunglasses in a variety of frames that are light and fit comfortably on your face. The polarization cuts glare and allows you to see the whole picture, helping you identify what's below the water's surface. They have a 60-day, risk-free trial, lifetime warranty, and free shipping. Plus, you can save yourself 10% with the code JIGSandBigs10 at checkout. Visit Torres.com to check out their selection. That's www.torege.com. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks. Jigs and Bigs is your favorite fishing podcast, right? Why not show the world how much you love the show while directly supporting us? We have men's and ladies' shirts, hoodies, and a variety of hats. We even have a waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker so you can listen to your favorite podcast while out on the water if you like. Check out jigsandbigs.com/shop to visit the store and gear yourself up. If you really can't get enough of this show, consider becoming a jighead and joining our Patreon. It's a subscription that gives you exclusive access to recording sessions that allow you to engage with us as we record the show. We also have some exclusive content there just for our jigheads and even have some special promo codes. Space is limited, so join now at jigsandbigs.com. Finally, if you're local to our area in Western Massachusetts, consider checking out the Western Mass Fishing Report, posted weekly at northeastwildwoman.com. We have amazing contributors providing great content and info for local conditions and what's been going on and working recently. Jigs and Bigs, so much more than just two lightly roasted hippies trapped in the 90s arguing on the internet about fishing. Alrighty, guys, Bobby Roast Beef here with another interview. I told you we're stacking them up. We're getting a whole bunch of stuff lined up for you guys in 2023. You're gonna love it. And we have Roger Young here. This is a name that if you listen to our show, you haven't heard before. Roger has a YouTube channel that's called GGG4r, or as he likes to say, GGG4r, and he's big into the outdoors, specifically in that overlanding and truck camping sort of space. But I discovered him just a few weeks ago before Christmas, where I had stumbled on his channel, and a great video that I think anybody who is thinking about getting out to the outdoors or extending their stay beyond one day in the outdoors, you know, getting out there and doing some camping, traveling a bit, this is something that you could definitely use. And I hear it from a lot of people that get discouraged. So we're going to actually be tagging this video in this episode of the podcast. You can go go ahead to the podcast info there and see a link directly to this video to check out. I think it's that important. If you want to take your adventure to that next level, you can learn a lot from this guy here. Roger, he is with us. Roger, how are you, man? How's things going?
I'm doing really well, man. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
Glad to have you on, dude. I saw your video and I started there and then kind of went down the rabbit hole and started following some of the other adventures that you had. Now, you're primarily based out in the West Coast, right?
Yeah, I live in San Jose, California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, there was one video where, is it Mendocino County? Is that what I'm thinking
My
of?
solo trip, yeah.
Yeah, that solo trip that you had taken. Now, Mendocino County is known for some pretty significant Bigfoot activity. And I think I commented on that video where I was like, oh, did you have any encounters with Bigfoot? Because I just watched a series on Hulu. I just started it, and it was amazing. The intro in the first episode where there was a guy talking about this cannabis farm that he was working on, and he was visiting a friend who worked at another farm, and I guess like somebody found a body on one of these farms.
No way.
The dude that found the body was like, no, I'm telling you, a Bigfoot killed somebody out there. And it's just, and it was in Mendocino County. When I saw your video, I was just like, oh man, solo truck camping. How did this go? Was there a Bigfoot? So first question, have you had an encounter with a Bigfoot in your area?
I have not, but you know what? Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
It's funny you bring that up because my second night out there, I use this like sleeping app that like helps me fall asleep and monitors all that stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
And it records stuff like you're snoring and all that. And it recorded this weird sound and it identified it automatically as a bird, but it don't sound like no bird. So I don't know what it was.
Oh, really? Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I never really thought that I was a big like Bigfoot type person. That was a big thing for me, but I'm like, the more I'm in the outdoors, and especially the more I talk to my co-host, Sean the Fisherman, crazy stuff happens when we're out there. It just does. Sometimes you can't explain it. And the human mind is such that it'll take you down this like corridor of insanity sometimes for possibilities. So I could certainly see where you get the idea of there being some giant mammal out there and you're like, oh yeah, this is what it could have been. Or it just blows my mind. But anyway, we're glad to have you on the show, man.
Thank you.
Like I said early on when I was introducing you, like you put together a video that I think gets. I think a lot of people in the truck camping space kind of miss the bus on. Maybe I haven't looked enough to see that they're out there. Maybe I'm missing something. But for some reason, I stumbled across yours. And let's not like cover it up here. You've got one hell of a rig. Like you've got a great rig going. But I love the point of your video is that you don't need a well-built rig to get started. In fact, you might end up with a more dialed rig if you just start and then discover what's important to you.
Yeah, you made a really good point right there. Because I went down that rabbit hole for sure.
Definitely.
Like watching like all these YouTube videos and people with like rigs that are like, over 100K in some cases, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you believe that you need all that stuff to do this, but you really don't.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of a hypocrite with some of the stuff I have on my rig already. But like my buddy John, my best friend, he comes out with his stock 3rd gen 4Runner. Mm-hmm. And he just sleeps in the back of his truck and has very little gear. And he has a great time,
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think anybody can do it with just what you have. Like you don't have to paint yourself inside this tiny little box of what we call overlanding in the U.S. nowadays.
Yeah, it's so funny too because it's like a lot of people. I remember when I bought my 4Runner. It just this last October I had my 1-year anniversary from the purchase date. I've wanted a 4Runner for years, and I bought a 5th gen and I bought a TRD Sport, which that year was the first year that trim had ever come out.
Yeah,
and at that time, inventory was a major issue. So although I went out with the full intention of buying a TRD Pro, I was like, I know whatever's on that lot, that's what I'm buying. You know what I'm saying? Whatever I can actually get, that's what I'm buying. And come to find out, like I've actually kind of moved into this and realized that this is an ideal, although it is a weird trim for most people, for me and what I do, It's fantastic. You know, it's my daily driver, so having that the X-Ray suspension works awesome as far as having it be a great road ride. Like 90% of the time I'm driving it, that's what I'm looking for. So it's great, but it's still capable enough. And most times that I'm going out there, even when I take my kayak, I've got a trailer with me. You know, so it's like I can't go and do some of this crazy off-roading stuff that other folks might want to, but for me, I'm getting all my adventure out on the water. So it's a perfect sort of relationship there. How was it that you kind of got into the outdoors? Like, what was the initial draw for you? When did that happen in your life? And how do we get to the point now? Walk us through your story a little bit till we got to where we are today.
I think it's kind of a rediscovery more recently.
That's really common.
When I was a kid, I'd go camping. Not really with my folks. I think statistically, I'm Asian. Statistically, I think Asians are the least likely to enjoy the great outdoors in the U.S. But I did it with friends and, you know, had a good time. And then I think a lot of what you do throughout life, hobby-wise at least, even more than hobby-wise, really is affected and influenced by the people around you, right? So
definitely,
there was a time when I hung out with people that just weren't into that stuff. So kind of fell out of it. But COVID, I think, played a big part in me really wanting to do something different with my life and just get out there. And, you know, I just wanted to experience some of the things that I experienced in the past being out there. Yeah. The simplicity of it, the pureness of it, really.
No, I think that's a story that we hear often where folks will say at one point or another in their life, maybe it was someone in their family, maybe it was a friend of theirs, maybe it was just young, like adventurous, you know, sort of energy. They wanted to be outdoors and get that experience. And then I feel like now, like in our generation, most people will put it down and they kind of come back around to a point, like maybe after college or after they've kind of like settled into their life a little bit. They're just like, oh yeah, there was this part of my life that I really enjoyed that I just got too busy for, and now that's what I'm looking for here. There's the other part of your channel that I think doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to the outdoors, and that's the relationship of the outdoors and an individual's own mental health and the relationship those two things have together, the improvement that one can give the other, you know?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So my background with that is, you know, I kind of did the very traditional thing, at least in Asian families, where you go to college and you're expected to get a white collar job and, you know, be successful in that aspect of your life. And that's what I did. And, you know, growing up, I always believed that I was my own person, made my own decisions. But, you know, as I've gotten older, like, and perhaps what you'd call a little bit wiser, it's not really the case. You know, I was influenced and molded and shaped by my upbringing. And I fell into that hole. So that's what I did. And came to realize at a breaking point that's not what I want with my life anymore. I think somebody commented on one of my videos and said he was trapped in a life he no longer wanted. And I wish I'd thought of that line, because that's a great line, because that's exactly how I felt. And, you know, wanted to make a change, and going out into nature and connecting with that has really like helped. And after doing a lot of research, having gone through major depression myself, you know, come to learn that there's been a lot of studies on how nature can be therapeutic for people. And I absolutely believe that now.
Oh, for sure. It's wild, man, because there was watching specifically I think it was a two-parter that you put on your channel where you were talking about that relationship with mental health. And it's crazy because I can remember it was the same sort of situation for me, except for me, it was fishing. I used to love to fish when I was a kid. I really did. I was never really good at it or anything. I didn't really have a good grasp of the understanding of how it worked, but the interest was there and I just never really went anywhere with it. And then as I got a little bit older, I started to kind of realize that my interest in fishing was really like, I don't know, I guess I was about my mid 30s, and I kind of, you know, we had just bought a house. I was like, I need something to do that doesn't cost a lot of money. That's really what it was. And I stumbled on fishing, and I kind of wrestled with it because I was trying to take that deep dive with it. And it wasn't something that I was necessarily catching on with. So I put it down for a little while and started working on my business and things. I was in a career. It's so funny too. Like you bring that up, like the relationship that obligation has with a person's own life or destiny is crazy. Like you, especially as a younger person, person, you expect, or you're sort of brought up in this sort of window where, I think for most people, and I hear this all the time from other people, like I own my own business now, and it was a major shift for me. I needed to do that.
Yeah.
I hear this, I wish I was able to do that. And I'm like, no, you can do this. You might not think that you can, and you might not be set up to take the risk, but anybody can do this. This isn't like a skill set that you need or anything. But for me, it was freeing to leave that job that I had had for almost 20 years. I dedicated almost 20 years of my life to working in television. And it was something that I wanted to be in broadcasting so badly, but it was so hard to provide for a family on that level of income. And I was constantly at the station. Every single thing that was asked of me, I was there. I'd put everything because I thought I was supporting my family, and it was and I always had side hustles. So I started a business, and I, at this point, had, I was out fishing and enjoying the outdoors and using it more as like a release. Like, okay, hey, I'm going to put this down. I'm going to go to it. But I found at that time that I was like, I almost had to kind of earn that trip out to go fish.
Right.
As if it was something that in a way there was almost like a tax. And that tax, I think, was my mental health. I really do. And then here we go to about a year before COVID. I made a decision where I was like, holy cow, I was like the heaviest I had ever been in my entire life. I'm like, I'm working for myself. I'm hustling nonstop. Yeah. And a buddy of mine from one of my regular accounts said to me, he's like, hey, we should go fishing tomorrow. I said, you know what? I think you're right. I haven't caught a fish in a couple of years. Let's go. So we go out, and I caught an absolute tank. And Eric is probably listening to this show right now. I caught an absolute tank, and it was like relapse right there. I was like, I was in 100%. But I made a point this time around to look at it differently. Like, no, I've already earned this. This is important. I need to be out doing this regularly. So it was within about a month's time, I came up with a regimen where I was going to go and hit the gym, and I was going to make time for myself when I wasn't, working a weekend or something, like in wedding season and stuff. I would go and I would allow myself to go out and hit the water multiple times. And that's when I started fishing 2 to 3 times a week. And the improvement that it had overall, my health overall in general, but my mental health especially, was amazing. That brings us to COVID. And now my business and my ability to take care of my family totally just gets pulled out from under me. So I'm at home. I'm like, what can I do? This was like, it was just, we had ice out, or, we just had gotten open water. I'm up in New England. So like, in the winter, it's all ice fishing, if anything. And that's not really my main cup of tea. So I was like, well, okay, we've got open water. I'm going to go and fish. And I just started fishing, and I decided, I was like, I need something else to do. And that's where I started putting this show together. And then 150 episodes later, here we are, and it's still going and going. But the improvement that had on my, I had to deliver that show every week, not for anybody else, but for my own. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, good fortune. So I had a goal, and now I'm working my ass off again, but I made a goal to be in my kayak minimum of twice a week this week, and I exceeded it this entire year. So it's been a really, really good thing. And I think that oftentimes people don't realize that, we have this conversation here at the show when it comes to fishing specifically, like the number of people that, for instance, like tournament anglers, people that go out and they spend money on tournaments to basically compete to try to win money. Right. That category of outdoors enthusiast, of anglers, if you look at the big pie chart, is so small. The vast majority of people that are out there are purely doing it for the enjoyment. Yep. And I think that's so important to realize, like, don't lose sight of that. I think that's absolutely huge. What was your first trip like? Like when you went out over, quote unquote, overlanding for your first trip, whatever trip you consider that to be, what was that like, your first trip out?
So I didn't even know the term overlanding at that point. I think it was back in, I got to remember, either 2018 or 2019. Like we planned a camping trip with a bunch of friends, my wife and I. And we were supposed to go to just this place called Trinity Lake in California, up near Mount Shasta. And it was just like normal, like what people consider camping, right? Established campground, had some facilities there to use. Yep. And because a lot of them hadn't gone camping like ever, so I wanted to kind of ease them into
it. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was 2019. It was like the worst fire season on the West Coast like ever in history.
Oh, man.
And I get a notification the day before we're supposed to go on that trip through email that they were closing that national forest.
Oh,
because
really?
of because of all the fires. So we're like, what the fuck are we gonna do now?
Yeah.
We have like put all this time and effort into planning this trip, and my buddy who was supposed to join us, he had moved up to the Portland area. And I was like, fuck it, let's go to Oregon, right? Let's go to Crater Lake. I've never been to Oregon before. None of the people in our group ever had. So we were like, last minute, let's go to Crater Lake. Let's go camp there.
That's awesome.
So we make that long drive, and that's about a good, I mean, with stops and everything, a good at least like 9-hour drive.
Yep.
Okay? We get all the way up there. We cross the border into Klamath Falls there. And there's roadblocks. And
really?
we're like, what's going on? And we talked to the state trooper at the roadblock, and he says, yeah, there's fires up there. And I'm like, holy fuck, we were trying to run away from fires. Right?
Yeah.
So we spent 11 and a half, almost 12 hours on the road that day. And we couldn't get up north to where my buddy had already set up camp.
No.
So yeah, exactly. So eventually we head into this little town called Grants Pass, and my buddy John remembered that you can camp out at Walmart parking lots overnight. They don't care. Yeah. By the time we got there, literally hundreds of people there. I bet. Hundreds of people there just running away from fires.
Yeah.
And we go to sleep, and I get a call in the middle of the night, like 2:00 in the morning, and it's my buddy Jesse, who was up at the camp spot already.
Yep.
And he said the ranger just rolled through, screaming out of his truck, "Get your shit and get out!"
Holy cow!
Yeah, he opens up his tent, like a couple hundred yards away. He sees fire, so he's like, shit,
"Oh my god, yeah, it's a problem then."
Exactly. So he's like, "Shit, I need to get the fuck out of here." So he packs up his truck super quick. And he says, I think I can make it down to you. And I said, dude, if you can, that'd be great. But like, be safe, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wake up early in the morning. I think it was like 5:30, 6 a.m., something like that. And I look behind me in the mirror of the car, and it's his Tacoma behind me. And I'm just like, thank God he made it.
Yep.
But we spent that entire trip literally just running from fires. So that morning I look it up, and there's a little town right across the border in California, Northern California, called Crescent City. They had a KOA there. I called and they said, yeah, we're good here. Like no fires. We start driving down there south, and another roadblock.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So at that point everybody's like, fuck it. Let's just go home. Like there's fires everywhere. Let's just get out of here. So we hopped on the only highway that seemed to be open back into California. And we ended up just pitching tents in the back of my buddy's house just to do it, you know?
Exactly. Like you put all that work in, like just, you might as well make a weekend of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we barbecued. We still had a good time, but just wasn't in the outdoors. But yeah, that was my first attempt of getting back into like camping.
No kidding. And I think that's something that like there was a thing when I first started putting this show together. I used to harp about it all the time. Like, you know, we would get guests on the show that would want to create content, and that was their goal. They're like, I'm out fishing. I'm looking to create content. I want to be involved with what's going on. This is what I'm looking to do. And we would run in the same, I guess it's kind of the same lesson. Like I would talk like other folks that not even outdoors related, like just wanted to do a podcast. And I would say, just start. Like it's not that difficult. Just start, because you'll never get to your 50th one if that first one you didn't put out and it didn't suck. It's going to be whatever it's going to be. Like let it be that and build from there. But if you don't start with the consistency, you don't start going, you're never going to catch that. So I think that like, yeah, exactly. Like that first reintroduction for you might not have been ideally what you were looking for, but getting out there and just doing it is a step in the right direction. Yeah, I think that's really, really, really important, man. Let's talk, because I am a gear guy. I want to know about your truck. tell me about your rig. Like, what was it? You've got yours is a Gen 3, right?
It's a third gen, yeah. So it's a 1997.
Yep.
So that generation ran from, I think, 96 to 2002.
Yep.
And it's the second one that my wife and I have. Actually, she has a third gen 400 too. It's a 2000 4-wheel drive.
Yep.
Vehicle that we've ever bought. And we bought it for her because she was doing this long commute, and we both had sports cars at the time, burned a lot of gas, and you know, like when you have a nicer sports car, you don't want it to get dinged in the parking lot and things like that. So we wanted to buy her a beater, like a reliable beater.
Yep.
And 4Runners kept coming to mind. Anything Toyota, really, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So we bought one off Craigslist. She fell in love with that thing. Stopped driving her M3.
Wow.
I'd want to steal that truck from her every time like she was off from work.
Yeah.
Eventually, I happened to be working at a car dealership at the time. And people would trade in their old cars, and I saw this green one, this 97,
Yep.
and for like a steal. So I was like, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to flip it, make some money.
There you go.
And I started driving it around for a few days, and I was like, I don't want to flip it. I want to keep it.
Yep. Like, this is mine now.
I want my own 4Runner. And I stopped driving my AMG C63 for this truck, believe it or not. A lot of people think I'm crazy, but I fell in love with this thing. Like, fuck my sports car. Like, I don't want to drive that around San Jose with potholes that are like 2 feet deep, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, it's just a pain trying to drive like a nicer car around these days in some parts of the country where like the roads are just horribly maintained.
Oh, definitely.
And don't get me wrong. I love that car. Like, it sounded mean, but like, you know what? It's just not practical for me nowadays.
Exactly. 100%.
So yeah, like I love this old 26-year-old truck versus that nice sports car.
Yep.
And, you know, the intention originally was just to build it for like super light off-roading for like when I'm off.
Yeah.
Because we got a local OHV park here, like about an hour and a half away from me.
Oh, nice.
And, you know, so I lifted it and got some bigger tires and started doing that a couple times. And then found this term called overlanding and started watching a bunch of videos. And I said, you know what? I'd rather do that. Like, I just want to be able to chill, see some nice views, and, you know, just have a good time without like thinking I'm going to break my truck every time I go out.
Definitely.
And that's how that kind of evolved.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you got a good, you know, it's funny when I got my 4Runner, the first thing everybody I know that saw me said, oh, it's a great looking truck. When are you gonna get the rooftop tent? When are you gonna throw a rooftop tent on there? And I'm like, I don't think, have you met me? I go 300 pounds. I'm like, I'm not the guy that should be climbing up a small ladder to live on top of my truck. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't, like, I'm sure that they could hold me up there, and that's fine.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, I'm sure of it, but I'm like, comfort wise, it's never going to happen for me, you know, or that's something I'm not necessarily looking to do. Actually, after looking into it, and this is one of those things that gets back to like when you're just starting, I was like, well, what's the right move? Oh, maybe I'll just tent camp. Maybe I'll go do that. Well, that kind of limits me if I'm in a situation where I need to stealth camp. So, you know, for me, it just made more sense where I could just put, like, I got connected with a company called Deep Sleep Overland that makes these mattresses. Man, they are fantastic. When somebody of my size can put that endorsement on there, like, that's a good thing. I sleep like a baby on those. But that's good. What's nice is I like to call, like, primarily what I do, like, if I had to put it in a box, I like to create my own term and call it not so stealth camping. You know, because I do take them, unless I have a trailer with me, I take everything out that I've traveled with, and I basically set up camp where I am. Lots of times I'll have an easy up tent, you know, instead of a rooftop canopy, though I'm not against that. You know, I'm toying around. There's still things that I'm playing around with, trying to figure out what it is that I want to do. I just joined it. It's a group on Facebook, Toyota Limited, because the TRD Sport has like a lot of limited parts. Yeah. Toyota Limited to TRD Conversion is the name of the group. And I just discovered what they call the limited cut, and it's where you chop the lowest end of your bumper right down. Like, basically, well, on mine, I have freedom to do a lot more because I'm missing some of the sensors. There's some features I don't have on mine, but I can bring the bumper up just a bit and trim it, and it looks amazing.
And it gets you more clearance, right?
It gives me more clearance, but it looks amazing. And at first I was like, I think I'm going to put the TRD grill on and, you know, do the swap and everything. And I'm like, you know what? I think if I just do the chop, it'll save me money and give it more personality. And I was like, I kind of like that. I kind of do. But it's just wild. But like I said, like, not so stealth camping. Like, I take out a bunch of stuff. I go in and I sleep. This Christmas, my wife gave me an electric blanket that's 12 volt. so I can, run it off of my battery to preheat my bed and then climb in. And I'm like, that's amazing. I am all in for that. So I'm going to make a trip like when it's really cold. Next couple of weeks is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it gets pretty damn cold there, huh?
It really does. The last time I was out, we had, there's a fishing YouTuber that I'm friends with, Fishing with Becca. She's amazing. She does a lot of truck camping stuff too. She just did a trip where she's from Rhode Island. She went from Rhode Island, went all the way down to Alabama. She was gone for almost a month and was just living out of the back of her truck. And making it happen. Fishing, she fished Alabama, Florida, the Carolinas, Virginia, all over the place. Came back up. Right. So now that's sort of like where the reason why this plays into what I do is I'm looking to connect with all these amazing folks that I've met all over the country and go to go out to the Midwest and go to Wisconsin and Iowa and Minnesota and fish up there. Then in the when winter is just nuts, go and hit Louisiana and Texas and Florida. Right. Kind of run away from it. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. Throw my kayak on a trailer in the back, bring, just the necessities that I need and make it work.
Yeah, I actually started watching Becca's channel after hearing your podcast with her.
Oh, she's great, dude.
Yes, that's a pretty awesome channel.
Yeah, she is absolutely like the real deal. Absolutely. We had such a blast, but like we had gone out and we had talked about it in our episode, like, and she said she was just like just do it. Whatever vehicle it is that you have, sure there's going to be things that you have to adjust, but it's better to just try it and then take, even if it's an absolute fail and you're just like, oh, I got the worst night's sleep ever, I need to do this and this, you're going to walk away with knowledge, and that's not a loss. That's a win, because you're going to learn something from it, be able to like tweak it to make it work the way that you need to. And throwing money at stuff is just not necessarily the way to, get it to work out.
Right. Yeah, I follow a couple of Instagram accounts where like it's just people selling gear, and like you hear so many times of somebody spending like $4,000 on a rooftop tent and just hating it. Yeah. And just selling it like after using it once or twice. And it's crazy. It's crazy that somebody dives into like that expensive of an item without having tried an alternative first, right?
I do think that being on the West Coast, like there is so much out there for national parks and BLM, property and stuff that there's, I've looked, I'm like, what are, where I am, it's tough to find spots. There's a lot of property that's up here that's not public land. Right. So it's that's the biggest challenge. It's like a lot of this is just like, okay, where can I find a little sliver of public land that's got some reason, a spot where I can fish that's nearby or something like that. That's been like a challenge. I think one of the things I've been looking for on YouTube is like tips on how to put this together. A lot of people are big into national parks and BLM land. For you, what have you run into that doesn't necessarily fit in those categories as far as finding spots? Like when you're planning a trip, what is it that you generally, what's the order look like for you?
It kind of depends where we're going. Like a lot of like what you've seen so far is national parks, but I prefer like dispersed camping, like really getting out into like national forests where you can just kind of camp anywhere. Yeah. Like I don't go camping to be around a shitload of people, right? At like an established campground. Like I do it so that I can just spend time with, my wife, my dogs, my friends, things like that. So again, it depends on where you're going. I do want to see national parks. I haven't been to a whole lot of them, but I want to camp outside of them when I can. So there's like a ton of resources nowadays on looking for dispersed camping sites, apps, websites, things like that. And I mean, Google is your number one go-to, right? That'll kind of point you to the resources that you need.
Yeah, it's funny. I've definitely found that I think the best way to, or the best answer is like a laundry list of different sources. Start in one place, figure out like where you want to go, and then use these other things to kind of piece everything together so that you can find a spot where one, you can camp, you can set things up, or and even getting there, you want to make sure that you're not on private property. That can be a problem. Exactly. It really can.
So there's really good tools for that. So you're probably familiar with a Gaia GPS.
Yep, I just downloaded that a couple months ago.
Yeah, it has a map layer for public land. So that's super helpful. I mean, there's a couple other apps too, like Onyx Off-Road that has that map layer too. And that's probably your number one resource, right, for where you can and can't camp. Because it can get kind of tricky. Like, you don't want to end up with a shotgun pointed at your face one day because you're on private property.
Yep.
Especially up in like Oregon, where there's tons of people that grow marijuana on their property. Like they look at you like it's super sketchy. Like, we drove through some of those areas, and it's just like they're staring at you like they're looking at what you're doing, and it's like, I'm not here to hurt you, man, or steal your stuff. I'm just traveling through, and I don't know where I am.
That's exactly what it is. Like, that you're not there to like get into their business or anything, but they don't know that.
They don't,
and it's in their best interest to figure that that's what you're there for.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Yeah. So if you're going out there trying this for the first time, and you're like, look at this, all these nice rows of cannabis, turn around.
It's a very fragrant smell, and you're trying to enjoy it, and all of a sudden,
Oh man! Now this is a totally this is a relationship question. First part, okay. Was your wife into the outdoors before you guys started going on these trips together?
So before that Oregon attempt, she'd never been camping in her entire life, ever. She's from China. I met her while I was overseas there. Okay. And they don't really do that there. Yeah. She's from like super like farming village area. So
gotcha.
What they do on a daily basis is like probably like roughing it to us, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So yeah, that's not a pastime there. That's not a hobby there.
Yeah, that's just life.
Exactly. That's just life.
It makes sense.
So like it took some convincing to kind of get her to try it, but like once she did, like she realized like I love it out here, and it's for the same reason I love it. It's for the pure simplicity of what you do out there, right?
The release and everything else, because that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. I was talking with my wife this last fall, and I said, listen, I'm thinking maybe like early spring we do some trips, or maybe not even spring, we look into late summer into fall when like the nights are cooler but the days are still like warm enough to be able to go and enjoy it. And my thought was, as we got into winter, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the investment in a tent, in a hot tent, like with a stove and the whole night, and do a couple of cots, because her and I, we're never going to sleep in my 4Runner. There's just we won't get a comfortable night's sleep in there together. Right. I have to sleep diagonally in that it is. So for me, it's a great solution there. But I could take those deep sleep air mattresses, pick up a cot, and put those mattresses right on top of the cots, and it would be comfortable as hell for either one of us. So I'm like, between those, the heated tent, that might work out just enough to kind of work for her. I'm curious, like, if I'm hoping she's going to get that same experience, because I've brought her out to fish a dozen times or more. Easily. We've never caught anything, and I know that's the one reason why she's not interested. When I say like, hey, we want to get up tomorrow morning, go grab a coffee and go fishing, she's like, no, definitely not. Definitely not. I know that if I could get her the experience where it's like they're just biting like crazy and we just are absolutely killing it, she would love it. Right.
So she's very like results focused, like kind of like
I think so.
I am, right?
Yeah. I definitely think so. As where, I'm more of like the journey is, although it's kind of odd because like I tend to think that those folks that are results focused are not necessarily thinking of like, hey, let's take the long way to get wherever and enjoy the trip on the way. That she does. So I know that appreciation for like the journey is there. There's a whole lot of things I'm working on. I'm trying to turn her into an outdoors lover as much as possible. There was one of your videos I saw where I think you were getting some, like you had hiked up to check either a trail or something. So one of these trips, and your wife was driving the truck up. Yeah. And I'm just like, see, that is awesome. That's what I would love to get my relationship with Holly to go to, like where we could go out and have these adventures. Because our kids are old enough now, like we have a 19-year-old and a 12-year-old. Okay. Like, so we can go and take these long weekends together. It's great. And I keep telling her, I'm like, hey, we've earned it. It's all right. We can go and do this. So that's kind of my mission. I think eventually we'll get there, but who knows?
Well, does she generally enjoy the great outdoors?
That's a big negative.
So that makes it hard.
That makes it really hard Because while she does appreciate it, like we'll go and, some of the nice scenic views in New England. Although I say this last year, I took her we went up to Vermont just to look at the fall foliage. And we had an amazing day. It was absolutely fantastic. And I feel like there's a part of when she sees my eyes light up looking at like just being outdoors where she's kind of like, what the hell's wrong with me? Like, how come this isn't doing anything for me? So who knows? Who knows what'll happen? But I think
it's just the right experience that I think everybody will enjoy some aspect of the great outdoors, right? It's just a matter of like where and what and how they do it. And I think that's one of the points I want to get across to people in some of my videos too, is that I don't care how you enjoy it. Yeah. Like enjoy it the way you want to enjoy it. It doesn't matter to me. Like we all like the same thing. Let's just get along. Right?
Exactly. And there's no, I love it that there's no right way. There's no, I mean, if you're, as long as you're not screwing something up for somebody else, then awesome,
Yep.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, I just hate how like people want to paint boxes for certain things. It's just like we all basically like the same thing. Like let's just talk about it and make it a better experience for everybody.
It's true. It is. It's really nuts the way humans, they love to do that, put everything in a category and try to break everything down. And we wonder why it's like, if we could just like not pay attention to those lines, just let them blur and be okay with it, life would get so much better.
Yeah, you know what'll help though, I think, with your wife and with anybody in general is just having good food at camp. Like it don't got to be hot dogs and hamburgers.
I'm with that 100%. That is one thing that I try to bring to the table is I think good food trumps everything.
Yeah, that can bring people together for sure.
I agree. I mean, this last summer we took a trip. It was the first trip for me bringing my kayak out into the ocean, which was
I bet that was crazy.
It was eye-opening. Yeah, there were some days we had like 35-mile-an-hour gusts of wind.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it was crazy. And I attribute the fact that I stayed in the boat to the kayak that I was using. I think if I was using anything else, it's very, very likely I would have been in the water. But it was absolutely bananas. And we made little flatbread style pizzas with sea robins that were caught. I know that we had some porgies, and then one of the guys that we were on the trip with, Nelson, is a trapper, and he had trapped a bunch of beaver, and he brought down a bunch of ground beaver meat, and we made sliders, and Roger, these were out of this world.
Sounds like it.
Like it tasted like beef, 100%. And I was like, this is absolutely wild. And good food, I think, is a huge like little reward at the end of a day when you're like, going outside of your element, especially like whether it's, a kayak in the ocean or you're hiking X amount of feet and you're not necessarily in that headspace to do it. Push it, Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think you need to.
Yeah. Hot meal at the end of the day.
Bring salt together.
Definitely feels good.
Yep. I love it, dude. Let's go ahead and talk about, if you had advice, like what would you suggest to a newbie who's like, I'd love to do this, but I need such and such a vehicle or I need whatever. What would your advice be to somebody that's just starting out?
Just do it. Don't go out and buy a brand new Tundra for no reason.
Yeah.
What if you don't like it? What if you figure out that, that's not really what you want to do and you want to do something differently? I mean, overlanding's not going to be for everybody, right?
It is so funny because I was having a conversation with my daughter, and years and years and years ago, I used to play in a bunch of different bands. And I remember I was playing in this one band, and the front man has, he's got a huge family. And in upstate New York, out in the Finger Lakes area, they would have this huge family reunion, and there's other family members that are musicians as well, and he was like, hey guys, I'd love to bring the whole band, and we could just play up there. He's like, there's amazing food and drinks. It's at a campground right on one of the lakes. And I said, okay, let's do it. Now, at the time, my youngest daughter was just born. This is years ago. My youngest daughter was just born, and I had a conversation with my wife. I was like, listen, why don't I take our oldest? I'll take Chloe with me. She'll have a great time. She was probably about 6 or 7, maybe. No. She was probably only 5. She was real little. And I said, I'll take her up, and we'll camp up there. And I was driving a Pontiac Vibe, and I told her, I said, we'll just camp in the back of the car. We'll figure it out. And I got there, and it happened to be that there were like a bunch of like kids, and there was like a kid like cabin that they had at the camp. And they're like, oh yeah, all the kids are sleeping up there. We've got one for the boys, we've got one for the girls. And Chloe got the invite to go join them. And I was like, this is great. So I overlanded for my first time in like 2009 back on Pontiac Vibe. I took all my drums out. I stored them in our guitar player's truck. I took all my gear out. Captain, I slept terribly. But the next morning when we had to, pack up and leave, we packed up and we headed out, and she was like, this is so much fun, Daddy. This is such a great adventure. Here we are. Nice. Can we stop and get breakfast? I was like, yeah, of course we can. Let's go. So it was one of those. And I remember recently I was talking with her and I was like, do you remember the first time we went overlanding? She's like, what? And I reminded her, she's like, yeah, I guess that was kind of overlanding. At least she's like, at least for you. And I mean, that was, but again, like if somebody's got a vehicle where they're like, I guess I can put the seats down here. Yeah. Go and buy the cheapest air mattress you can and fill that sucker up and throw it in the back. Try it, try it before you buy it, Exactly.
Like I see, like, especially this last trip I did in Death Valley.
Yep.
I mean, I was up like it's a well-maintained gravel road that they just redid, that they just regraded, right?
Oh yeah.
But I mean, when I say gravel, like not like your normal gravel. I mean, these are like rocks that are like, I don't know, like a good inch across. And it's newly done, so it's super loose right now. And like I see a Camry like halfway up the trail, and it's like just do it. Like and you may like it, you may not, but you won't know unless you try it first. Like there's no point in going out and spending a ton of money. Like those guys I see posting their rooftop tents that they no longer want. Like there's no reason to do that.
It's true. It's 100% true, man. Unbelievable. Roger, this was absolutely awesome, dude. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, coming on and talking about this. Let's stay connected, and I'll definitely hit you up. Like when I do my first West Coast trip cross-country, we'll be in touch. We'll go out.
Oh, yeah, I'll take you around. I expect the same courtesy if I ever make it out back east.
If you do anything out by the Appalachians, yeah, for sure. Hit me up. Let me know. In fact, you know what? You fish at all?
So the ideal romanticized version of me does.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I have the patience to do it, but I'll work on that.
The kind of fishing that I do or most of us do is not patience-based fishing. This is very active. We'll get you in a kayak, dude. You're going to have a good time.
Awesome.
This will be for real. So if you come to New England, make sure to hit me up for sure.
Definitely.
Awesome, dude. Thanks so much, man. Do me a favor. Shout out anybody that you're working with, and also like where folks can check out your content via Instagram or on YouTube or anything like that. This is your opportunity to promote yourself a little bit.
Oh, sure. On YouTube and Instagram, it's just GGG4r. So at GGG4r, and that's pretty much where I have any social media stuff right now. So yeah, I appreciate anybody that watches and comments and all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
So I thank you for stumbling across my channel.
Oh, definitely, man. This was fantastic. I'm glad we were able to make it happen.
For sure. Like I had a good time talking to you. So
awesome, dude.
Hopefully we can make it happen one day.
For sure. I love it, man. We'll be in touch. All right.
Sounds good.
Take care, bud. See you.
Hey, take care. Happy New Year.
Yep. Here we are. We're diversifying what it is we're talking about, because ultimately at the end of the day, it all helps your fishing adventures. That's what it's all about. Great to have this conversation with Roger. I hope we inspired some of you, because I do hear from folks that are just like, man, I'd love to go out and truck camp, but like my car is too small for that or such. Try it. Adapt. Trust me, you can do a whole lot more than you think you can. Absolutely. And, it can help you extend your ability to get out there as your area where you can fish. It's good stuff. Get out there and do it.
Love it.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Oh, what a great show. Nice, laid back. First show of 2023. We didn't have to light anybody up. We didn't have to curse anybody for being, an absolute buffoon on the water.
Nowhere to go but down from here.
It's right. Yeah, absolutely. We're sinking into the gutter, folks. Get ready.
Yeah, we're gonna yearn for today. About
really
4 months from now, gonna yearn for it.
We'll be like, oh, remember those days? Remember we didn't have to talk about jet skis. Remember we didn't. I have gotten a couple of folks that have sent me some stuff. In fact, Fish Daddy 401 had sent me a. Another. You remember we did that FTG for that one guy from that Florida Instagram page?
Yes.
Yeah. So they've back at it. Now, I mean, not the same guy, but another post from there. He sent me another post, and I was just like, God, you got to be kidding me, man. But hey, it's Florida. That Florida man thing is a thing for a reason, and I don't really know why, but my God.
Has Florida at this point, though? I mean, recently, Ohio has really been taken in the ass.
Yeah.
Ohio has really been blasted the past 6 months. You don't see people. I mean, Florida's always going to have its spotlight, but my God, I don't know what Ohio did to the rest of the nation, but Ohio has been really getting shit on.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Ohio is like a cultural mecca.
I didn't say they didn't deserve it. I'm just saying they've really been getting shit on.
Although, actually, I mean, I feel like Ohio is the Florida of the North.
Yeah.
In a way,
right.
I don't know. It's wild out there. That's where we got Eleanor. It's from Ohio.
That makes a lot of sense.
Heed the warning.
So much sense.
So much derp. So much friggin' derp. Last night, that dog was hilarious. I was exhausted after having a few afternoon cocktails and a bunch of delicious food, then coming home and hanging out. My wife has started playing this new game on her PS5. It's an anime game that my youngest daughter also loves. So now they play together, which is both adorable and sickening at the same time.
What's the game?
It's called Genshin. Yeah. It looks and it apparently has a play style that's very much like Zelda Breath of the Wild, like that. Okay. And so it's cool, and I mean, I'm not much of a game guy at all, but she'll put on a game, she's happy. I'll watch her enjoy some of, Grandpappy Sleepy Tobacco, and then, just kind of get out in my little zone and do my thing. Well, last night I brought the dog out. I was like, this is what I do. I text the girls. We have a group chat. I text the girls. I was like, hey, one of you guys bring out Hudson, because usually Hudson will sleep in one of their beds. And this is because we feel bad leaving him in the crate, because the little princess goes upstairs and sleeps with us. So I text the girls. This is every night. This is not my life, Sean. I text the girls. I was like, hey, someone come and get Hudson. Hudson's just like, oh, me? Oh, we got Hudson, his own Sleepy Tobacco, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we did. They just kind of chill him out a little bit. And so far, so good. It's been nice. I don't think it lasts nearly long enough. I think I'm just going to give him some of mine.
Fair enough. We noticed that in Boston yesterday, that there was at least 2 places we went by on Newbury Street that said pet CBD.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can give that shit to your pets? I
thought
it wasn't good for them.
No, it's fine. You can give it to him.
Okay.
But it chills my. He's so anxious, just constantly, so we gave it to him. He seems like pretty chill, pretty happy, and we're like, all right, this is good. So we do that. The girls come down and take the dog out. I then take Eleanor outside so she can do her business, last one for the night. And I asked my wife, I go, are you tired? Because I'm exhausted. Let's go upstairs. And she's like, no, I'm not tired at all. Blah, 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 blah. I go and I take out this little gray friggin' son of a bitch.
Sorry.
Are you playing your game? Your Transformers game?
Okay. I was flipping through something, looking up something else. I accidentally hit Instagram, and just by chance, who's out there lifting weights nowadays for the new year?
Delirious, yeah.
Delirious, and he's doing it
to 5-finger death punch
with a lot of metal.
Yeah.
So thanks, Delirious, for ruining the end of the show. No, just kidding. Thanks for fucking selling me out that I was on my phone while Bobby was talking.
Your face is surprising. You're like, oh.
Well, that was loud. My bad.
So I bring her outside. She does her business, and then she does this thing, like we call it a jump snoof in this house, where she like jumps up off of her front legs and just does like almost like a sneeze, you know? And it's usually that's when she wants something. And you know, Holly's looking at the dog and she's just like, what do you want? She's like, you already went out. Do you want to come up and sit with me? And I'm like, I'll sit down here if you want. And then I was like, wait a minute. No, she wants to go upstairs and go to bed. That's what it is. So I was like, she wants to go to bed. She's like, you think? And I was like, yeah, I think. We go upstairs. By the time we both get into bed, she's like, okay, you guys are here. I'm going under here. We're done. I'm out. She was asleep like that. Oh, it was ridiculous. Like, she's an old lady.
So that's what the jump snoof is for. Take me to bed.
Take me to bed. Or, I mean, it could be anything. Sometimes the jump snoof will also be, I have to go outside, which she only is successful with that like 40% of the time. But if she's jump snoofing, she wants something. You know, it might be if she's doing it in front of her water bowl, she wants water, you know, or whatever. And we're like, okay, cool. That's good. You know, it's like that's the way she communicates. But she's so derpy. Like sometimes like her lip will get stuck outside and she'll be like sticking. I think I've posted pictures of her when this happens. It's so freaking stupid. Oh, these goddamn dogs.
Yeah. All right. Good for the derp.
Oh, party on, man. Party on. So, yeah, I think that about does it for this show. We got ourselves a good one. It's going to be fun. And so we got some traveling. We got some gnarly trips to plan for. And it'll be good. I'm excited, man. I think we're going to have ourselves one hell of a 2023.
I think so. It's going to be
good stuff.
Hopefully a little smoother for me. And I'm just ready to, I mean, I'm waist deep in basketball, and basketball will be done before I know it. And hopefully I can get some prep work done beforehand. So I just hit the ground running. We'll see what happens.
Friggin' A, man. Friggin' A. All right, guys, you have yourselves a fantastic week. We will see you guys next time for more fun stuff here at Jigs and Bigs. Remember, as we start like working our way through winter, getting closer to spring, we have lots to talk about in regards to preparing and getting ready so that you can make this spring an absolute just blast for you and hopefully get yourself on some breaking catches. That would be amazing. We're also going to be talking about our online tournament series that's coming back, and it's going to be huge. You're going to want to be a part of it all. It's going to be fantastic. For Sean the Fisherman, I am Bobby Roast Beef. Have yourselves a wonderful 7 days, and remember, go ahead and tag us in any catches you have coming up in the next week or from here on out. We would love to know what you're catching and how you're doing. So we will see you guys next time we see you for more Jigs and Bigs goodness. Until then, like we always say,
tits and ass, smoke some grass.